Fishing Gurus podcast.
So David, tell me a little bit about the fishing you've been doing recently. I know you've been with Tom quite a lot, and I keep seeing it popping up on my Facebook. You, carp fishing, match fishing, a lot of match venues in and around the UK. What have you been doing?
Well, I just use it as an excuse. So when Tom is filming with Brad or Tommy Pickering, I just use it as an excuse to go fishing. Catherine will do all the directing of the film shoot. I'll just go around the corner, the other side of the island, out of photography lens view, and just start fishing and mind my own business.
Well, Catherine's your wife, isn't she?
Yeah.
So she does the directing and stuff when you're doing the Fjuka filming.
Yeah, she does the fluffing for Tommy, get him up to speed, get him all excited.
Brilliant.
And pulls everyone in the right directions with her insights.
I know that he enjoys it. We had Tommy on podcast and he were telling us about it then.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. Fantastic.
Did he mention the fluffing?
Didn't mention Catherine's fluffing. We'll have to get her in later. She can tell us a little bit about it.
Oh, she will.
Brilliant to have you on the podcast, David. Really, really excited about this one. Thank you for coming on and welcome to the Fishing Gurus podcast.
Well, I'm just in awe, really, that you've not only asked me, but actually managed to get me here, because I've spent my whole life trying to stay out of the lens and away from microphones. That's just not my thing.
I find that amazing. You've said that to me a few times. Why is that? You've never really told the story, and it's amazing. I know it is, because we've had a chat before.
Well, I've got a lot of invisible disabilities, you might say.
Right.
So here you are.
Look at this one.
Look at the bottom one.
Right. So I've got a sheet of paper, folks, and the bottom one, David's acronym disorder.
Yes, DAD.
DAD.
So my kids came up with that one for me, because it's not a real one, but everything's always abbreviated into acronyms. So if you'd have asked me what DAD stood for, you would have seen that even though I know it, I have to try and work it out. It takes me quite a long time. David's acronym. So that answers the rest of them. If you start from the top.
Go on then. So should I start from top?
Yeah. What's
right.
it say?
So are these are all your what you call disordery things. Yeah. I don't think it's that bad, to be honest. Right. Prosopagnosia.
That'll do.
Right. Go on. Tell us a little bit about that one then.
I only found this out about 4 or 5 years ago. It's face blindness. So what happens is when you're growing up, you don't realise what you've got going for you or going against you. It just is however you are.
Like, so you've got someone stood in front of you talking to you, and you're like, right, who is this then? And you're trying to digest the conversation, but trying to work out who they are and where you know them from.
Yeah, you can either come out with it straight away and say, like, who are you? But can you imagine if you've had a friend for 20 years and you're you meet in a bit of a group meeting various people, and you say to that person, so just remind me, who are you? It's not really conducive, so it's quite tricky. So like I would go into my office at Preston Innovations, people who worked for me for like 10, 15 years, like Todd Humphries, for example. I go in, and if they were sitting at somebody else's desk, like as you do, I wouldn't know who the hell it was.
Because you're used to them being sat in a certain place.
Yeah. So if they're not in the right place, wearing the same clothes, or I wouldn't know who they were. So it's just not pleasant. So it's always made me, that with the other ones that you're going to go through in a minute, made me being very not want to actually be in groups of people or meet up with people or go to exhibitions or anything like that. Because I used to go around the exhibitions, and I used to take my badge off and put it in my pocket.
So you're talking about like the fishing shows, Tackle and Guns or NEC or any of the big shows for fishing?
They wouldn't know me, would they? Because you assume that everyone else is the same as you if you don't know what's going on, which I didn't. So I'd hide my name tag.
David Preston.
And then I'd go around having a look at people's stands, maybe Danny Fairbrass's stand, and find out what he's up to. But they wouldn't know who I was, would they? Because I don't know who they are. So they wouldn't know me. So I'm going around thinking I'm incognito, and they're all talking to me in a very respectful, strange way, and I can't understand it. And then 20 years later, when I find out I've got this face blindness, suddenly I can understand how laughable the whole thing is.
That's amazing. So you're walking around the show thinking, these guys and girls don't know who I am,
Yeah.
You're walking on their stand, and realistically, they're going, "That's David Preston
Yeah.
looking at our stuff on our stand."
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you think they don't know because
Yeah.
of
And I'm cross-examining them, trying to find out, all about the new products and things. Thinking
yeah.
that they don't know who I am. I think they're just some punter.
How do you get around it, David? So like knowing you've
Now
got
I
that,
know. I just say to people, look, I won't recognise I got face blindness, and I have to explain it to them. And then they usually say something like, "Oh, I'm terrible with faces." They just don't get it because it's outside their understanding.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, mate, I'm really bad. But
I can't remember names. I can't remember faces. Yeah.
But no. This is the thing. This is a proper thing.
Yes.
Once I had to meet I was going to meet. I'd arranged to meet my wife somewhere in town somewhere, and she was going to be in this coffee shop. And as I'm walking down this long corridor in Costa to get to where she was, as I got closer and closer, something was telling me that there's something not quite right here. And then when I got closer, I sort of met her eyes, and she looked up. And I thought, there's no recognition there, so I'm messing up again now. I don't know what's going on. And so I carried on walking, feeling very anxious. And it turned out it wasn't my wife, but she got ginger hair, and she got the same gold bag, and she was at the same laptop, and so it completely threw me.
Wow. So you're constantly looking for all the recognisable
All the other
things.
clues, how people walk, what their voice sounds like, and all this sort of stuff.
Amazing.
So I didn't know any of that.
Amazing. I find it so amazing.
Do you mind, David? Can I ask a question as well? If
Yeah.
that's all right. It's what fascinates me is you obviously grew up with this and was dealing with it for quite a long time without actually realizing that there was something wrong.
Yeah.
At what point in your life did it occur to you that you thought, actually, hang on, this might not be normal, there's something going on here? Was it a particular scenario? Or?
No. You just get used to however you are. We all do it. But it's only when I found out. I think it was Catherine was saying, "Oh, look what I've read on Google here. People with face blindness. Have a look at this." Oh,
okay.
yeah. Now I get it.
Yeah.
Penny dropped. And
Yeah.
you thought, that's
and
what I've got.
then you start reprocessing all your life experiences, particularly the most painful ones. So yeah.
We'll come on to some of that in a bit because I want to ask you
I
about.
love to talk about pain.
I want to hear some pain. Next one on this list you've handed me is dyslexia.
Oh yeah. So everyone's heard of dyslexia, haven't
Yeah.
they? So it just makes it difficult to understand things that are written down sometimes. When I left university. So I went through university. I'm not really bad at dyslexia, but it makes it difficult. But when I left university, I decided I was going to be a fisherman, and I was going to make some money by being a fisherman. So I was going to become an angling journalist,
Right.
and I did. But it didn't really make much money, so it was a waste of time. So I had to change direction at some point. So I can write, and I can read, and I read books all the time. But sometimes it's just like really difficult to actually process what I'm reading. So I have to go really slowly, or read in a different way, or skim it, or something like that.
Yeah, has it ever been, because from a real big picture point of view, there'll be lots of people listening to this who have got dyslexia of all ages, and I look up to you for what you've achieved and done, and we're going to hear a lot about it. But what advice would you give to, say, a young person who has got dyslexia, having had it from a young age, and to be where you are now?
Well,
what would you say to them?
This is one of the reasons why I'm talking about these things, because they are a handicap, whether anyone wants to say that or not, in this positive PC world. These things are handicaps. We've all got handicaps. But there's always the other side to things. So people who are dyslexic tend to be really creative. It's definitely the case. I observe the workings of my own mind, and I can see how it works. So I have to. There's other stuff in there as well, but I have to. Dyslexia is partly a different way of processing things in your mind, and it is closely linked. A lot of people might disagree with me with this, but it's closely linked to a certain form of memory, that how our minds operate. So you have to almost work out things afresh every time. When I see a word that's written down, it could be anything really. Powerful. Say the word powerful. most of the time I'm like everyone else, it's just powerful, and it just gets in the sentence, and I know what it means. But other times I look at it and I think, what's that? What is it? And I've sort of forgotten it, so I have to work it out again. And it's this working things out afresh every time, or very often, rather than just having the instant memory you're not even aware of, it's just there. That makes you really good at working things out and looking at things from the beginning, and from the raw material of the words, or ideas or thoughts or whatever. And so you get really good at it. It's like any other muscle in your mind or your body. It gets stronger and stronger the more you use it. So I'm really good at being creative.
I like that. That's a massive positive of having that.
Yeah, it is. But only if you actually use it. So what's next?
Next, we've got APD. Now, is DAD going to become a problem on this one?
No, because I've been practicing.
Right, APD.
I still have to work it out.
Right.
So APD is audio processing disorder.
Audio processing disorder.
So I'm a little bit slow at working out what things I hear, words I hear, what they mean, which is fine. It's not a problem when I'm talking to one person, but if there's another person and there's a conversation going on, I can't process the stuff quick enough to be able to work it out.
So Toby, shut up. Be quiet.
I'll turn my mic off now then.
So that's another thing. What's the next one?
Anomia. Anomia?
Anomia, yeah.
Anomia.
That is a really weird one.
I've never heard of that,
and
David.
It's not an acronym. That is actually a thing,
It's a word.
And what it means is I have difficulty in remembering nouns, which are quite a fundamental block.
It's
in
the name
speech.
of something.
Yeah. So if I want to say, pass me that orange, I'd have to work at it, and then I'd end up saying, pass me a banana.
Honestly?
Yeah, just make a joke out of it. Yeah, so to speed things up a bit. So when I'm telling stories, I can talk to you like this, fine. But if I had told you what I did yesterday, and I'm recounting a little trip I did, and I drove over somewhere, and then I did that and that, you need to have a memory for place names and things like buses or whatever it is you're doing, and it suddenly becomes not so fluid and problematical.
How do you combat that one,
David?
Know?
You just have to not talk.
You shouldn't do that, because nouns are they're the biggest thing in the vocabulary.
Yeah.
Everything's got a name.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to get through this podcast and
So
we'll
is that
play on them.
Is that the last one?
That's the one after that. Oh no, we've got ADD.
ADD. Oh yeah.
ADD.
Attention deficit disorder, and ADHD.
Right. Is that a similar sort of thing?
Yeah, it's all the same thing.
And
they're all related. It's like, so the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm visibly successful, highly successful in the tackle industry, which is a little tiny thing.
Massively.
And in making money. And I've made a load of money. And the reason why I'm saying this is because despite these things, I've been successful, or visibly successful, because lots of people are successful and it's not visible, but this happens to be visible. I've been really successful by concentrating on the things that I liked doing. And because I like doing them, they're going to be the things I can do. I would never be liking doing speeches to people, because it's just not going to work. It's going to be hard for me. So I've concentrated on the things I really enjoy doing, and they're the things I'm good at. And because I've done that, I've got better and better at them, and I've gone in the directions that actually work for me, and that's how I've done it.
I like it.
And it really is for everybody if they follow what they like doing. And there's lots of people say, you can't do that, and it's not true. And I'm living proof of that.
I find that massively, massively motivating hearing it from you. And I'm sure that a lot of listeners will do as well. And when they listen to the stories that we've got coming up and the journey you've had,
I've forgotten them.
It's simply amazing. I'm going to remind you of them.
Oh,
Don't you worry about that. So before obviously, David Preston, founder of Preston Innovations. I want to talk about all that. But before we do, I always remember first time I met you properly, you made a big point of telling me you were a carp angler.
Yeah,
you went, I'm a carp angler, Matt, not a match angler. And in my mind, I'm thinking, Preston Innovations is a match brand. David's a carp angler, and it didn't quite fit. Tell me a little bit about your background from fishing, from angling.
I'm a carp angler.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
when did it start for you? When did you suddenly realise, like, I like fishing, I'm into fishing?
Well, it all comes from the same point of me not liking being with people. And, well, it's not quite true that I do like being with people, but not groups. So because of all those different things, without me knowing them, my start of my life was very uncomfortable, is probably the way of putting it. But I didn't know it was uncomfortable. It was just the way I was. And I got introduced to fishing by my brother-in-law, who's about 5 years older than me. And he took me fishing down the local canal basin and introduced me to tench fishing.
Lovely.
And I just couldn't believe it. I mean, it was just so fascinating. And it was just fantastic. There's this, it was a still day, and there's lily pads, and the sun was shining, and the doves were calling, and all this. It was just first thing in the morning. The thing where your float suddenly moves all on its own and disappears, and then you're pulling on something and something's fighting you, and then this tench, as it was, came out, and I think, oh my God, there's a whole world underneath that flat barrier to another universe. There's a whole world down there that you don't know about, and suddenly you can make contact with it. It's absolutely magical, and it made me feel much more peaceful.
That's really interesting. Yeah. I think that we ask a lot of people on the podcast, like, what do you love about fishing? And they give that very similar picture. And it's amazing how that same thing captures
and I think
a lot of
the
people.
Word capture is quite good, because I think anglers go for the rest of their life without realising it, possibly, that they're trying to recapture those first magical moments. And maybe fishing's like being addicted. And you're always trying to get the same high or something like that. I don't know what it is, but it's still there for me. It's absolutely still there.
Great to hear. To hear. I can tell that you still love fishing, because obviously I follow what you do. When you talk about when you were younger, it was an escape. It was a way of getting away from things. I want to, like, what was, say, school like for you, David? Because obviously all these things, and the fact that you have to work so hard to combat them all, and at that young age you didn't know you got this or these and all this. How did you handle, say, school, and what were your life like at them early years?
School, I was really lucky with school, because I happened to be in a town whereby there was if you passed your 11 plus, so if you showed you're reasonably bright, even though the school, it was a special school, not a special school in that way, it should have been, but a really top-notch secondary school, you had to pay to go there. It was private. But if you were born within sort of a mile of it, and you were reasonably intelligent, then you could go there free of charge as a day person. So I didn't get too much of the rough and tumble. And I was really weird, because I was really good at some subjects and really bad at others. So French, Latin, things like that, no chance whatsoever. And you understand now. I just absolutely couldn't. I was the first person to ever do multiple choice GCSE, I think it's called O-level then, in French, who got a negative mark, -7.5% at mock exams, because I really didn't know anything. And you could get negative marks. I think they got rid of that because they don't want anyone to be a failure.
No.
So they let me drop that one. But I was brilliant at chemistry and maths and stuff like that.
And did you take that further after, from there onwards? So
I surprised everybody there, because I come from a really poor family, poor part of town, and there were posh people who ran the place, and the headmaster and the headmistress, they thought I was a complete and utter loser and I should never be there.
Where were you from?
Newport in Shropshire.
Newport, right, okay.
Adams Grammar School. And I'd surprised them all by getting straight A's for GCSEs, O-levels. And then I did well at A-levels, and I got some grants and awards so I could afford to go to university. And then I went to university, and then I went fishing.
And what did you do at university?
Chemical engineering.
Wow. And did you enjoy it? Did you?
Oh no, life was hell.
Why is that? Tell me about uni. And for you to say life is hell, that's quite extreme. You know?
It was really extreme. But again, it's all those things where it's difficult to interact with people, and just life's just it's just hard. It's not. I wasn't a happy person, and I found that when I went fishing, the fishing I ended up doing was carp fishing, and I realised one day that why I liked it so much was because the absolute concentration on achieving one goal, i.e. that one big carp, that actual concentration simplified my life in the moment. That all there was that, and so it took away the pain of everything else, and that was quite good. So that's why I went carp fishing.
So fishing became the focus. And did you used to go while you was at uni? So like days off, evenings?
Oh yeah, all the time. All I ever talked about. I mean, it must have been a right pain to anyone who did know me and talk to me, because all I could ever talk about was carp fishing. Nothing else.
Nothing wrong with that. What was like? I'm skipping back a little bit, but what was like home life like for you, David? Like in terms of your parents and that. You say you came from a rough area, and
well, again, it's only because I found these things out about myself in the last few years that I then piece it together. So I never realised until my wife met my mother, Catherine, my wife met my mother, and she pointed out that she was very much on the spectrum. You know, I'm on the spectrum. She was even more so. She was probably autistic, and so she never talked really. There's no communication. So back when I was growing up, she looked after me. She wasn't cruel or anything like that, but there was never any communication, and there was no communication between her and my father. And my father never really talked to me.
Right.
It was just really, really weird. But I didn't know any of this. And the first inkling I ever got that something was I didn't even know then something was weird. I just felt it strange when I went round to a friend's house and I saw his parents actually talking to each other and laughing and joking and things like that. And I thought, what the hell's going on here? That's really weird. So I was brought up in a way that didn't really prepare me for communicating with other people, let's say. And because I was on the spectrum myself, so it was double whammy. So it was just made things very, very uncomfortable for me without me ever knowing that it was different for anyone else. I used to look at people and think, what are they smiling about? They must have a stronger willpower than me to make themselves smile. So I used to try and smile. And it's just really, I know it's so bizarre, all this, but it was like that. And there must be people out there who have the same sort of things going on. And a hell of a lot of people who've just got a little bit of this and a little bit of that that make things a little bit awkward for them.
When you say, because you use this term a lot when you talk, the spectrum, you talked about your mum and people being on the spectrum. What do you consider that to be, David? Is that the, some people have got a little bit, some people are a little bit on it, some people are really far on it?
We humans have got all these different parts to our abilities and our personality. We've got all the same things, and everybody's got different amounts of different things. So somebody might be really extrovert because they're really good at talking, and someone else might be really, everyone's good in different ways. But if someone, this is my understanding of what being on the spectrum means, if you've got something that is particularly bad or particularly good, sort of out of proportion, then it sticks out. And I think that's what we all mean when we say someone's on the spectrum. So someone might be absolutely brilliant at one thing, and you can't be brilliant at everything, so you end up with being really rubbish at something else. And it's that unbalance that makes it that I would say that you're on the spectrum.
Right.
So we've all got the same things. I mean, every single boy, every male young person, every child who's male, the chances are they've got a lot more of ADHD and almost autism, because it's a male quality more than a female's quality, more normally on average. And so you see lots of boys running around like maniacs, when they're sort of 4 and 5 and 6. The girls are, I know I'm grouping everyone together, but it's with the understanding that we are all different. And so I'm not being prejudiced or anything.
Not at all.
But it tends to be the boys at a party when they're kids run around like maniacs doing stupid things physically, and the girls tend to do a bit more socialising and being a bit more mature about things.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is. So these qualities are in us all, and it's just about how to balance they are.
And it's nice. What I think is brilliant is to hear it from you, who has, with time, understood it within yourself. So you seem to be able to explain it really well, which I think is amazing for people listening who might be in a situation now that you was back then when you didn't quite know you'd got it and you were trying to figure it out along the way. And it's fantastic.
It's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because in my own little way, if I can make people feel less alone by telling them they're not the only ones, then that's what I want to do.
Brilliant. When you was in this conveyor belt of education, did you have any other hobbies or anything other than fishing? I know you mentioned to me motocross before, and I've got visions of you riding a motorbike in my head.
You don't really want me to tell you this. You don't want me to tell you this. You really don't want me to tell you the story about how stupid I was about me wanting to go to Nevada desert.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that.
I want to see a picture of David riding through a desert on a motorbike.
Right, okay. So my father stuck me on a motorbike. They weren't called motocross bikes then. They were called scramblers.
Scramblers.
And they were just road bikes for kids anyway. They were just road bikes that you took the lights off and put knobbly tyres on. That was it really. Then he stuck me in a field, and I just my attention thing again, being the way I am. Well, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. And so he took me around, and he ended up putting me in some YMCA, I think it was called, not the Christian thing, Young Motocross. Now I can't remember what it stands for because I got acronym.
DAD's kicking in.
Anyway, I joined the motocross stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw one day it suddenly clicked. I was always last or second to last for about a year and a half. And then one day something happened, and still don't know what it was, but it's very interesting for personalities that you can have latent abilities, and sometimes it's just a switch. And suddenly I won, and I kept winning, and I kept winning.
Wow.
And I ended up being for kids, the UK champion at aged 10.
Amazing. Really young.
Only in the kids thing though. And then my father just, he was a bit of a narcissist really. My parents weren't really very good at being parents, but he's a lovely guy, and he took me motocrossing, but he decided he wanted to do more. So he sort of signed me up for the AMCA, which is an adult version. It's still going now. So I joined when I was 12. And I'm probably still the youngest person to ever join.
12-year-old in an adult motocross.
Yeah, and they put me in the experts.
Wow.
And then he made me. Then he signed me up because he wanted the better club was the ACU, and so he wanted to do that. So he signed me up for that. I did that. So I'm the youngest person ever to join that, and probably always will, because I think you've got to be 16 or something. I'm not sure.
Got you.
So that's quite interesting. So, but you really want me to tell you this?
Yeah, I want to know about the trip to America. Is a really interesting one.
Well, I was a weird person, and there's lots of things that I'm really, really intelligent about, but a lot of things I was really, really backward about. And so when I did all right at my O levels, GCSEs, my careers master obviously spotted, he is one, I'll be able to guide him in the right way.
The maths, the chemistry.
Yeah, he's actually done really well. And I said, well, he said, what do you want to do then, in your life? What career do you want? And I said, well, I just want to go scrambling. And I'd been to America. Someone took me over there, and I saw the Nevada desert, and I thought, I want to do this. I want to live on the edge of the desert with a motorbike and just go motocrossing every day. And so I thought, right, I want to do this. And the careers man said, you can't do that with O levels. You've got to do A levels. Oh, okay. So I did my A levels, thinking I'm going to go there now.
And your mind's set on it. Your mind.
Well, it's so weird, isn't it? Because I am actually a really intelligent person on this, But in that way, I wasn't. So I believed him. So I did the A-levels and did really well. And he said, they're no good except as a stepping stone to do a degree. Okay. So I did a degree and I passed it. I got a 2-1 honours or something. And then my tutor, the professor, said to me afterwards, he said, well, you'd be wasted unless you did a PhD. You're a clever person. You need to do a PhD. And the light bulb went off in my mind. And I suddenly realised that everybody who was advising me, that's what they'd done. So that's what's the right thing to do. So that's what they're going to tell you to do. Basically, it's just, and I thought, sod this. So I didn't. So I just dropped out, went home, lived in squalor with my father again, and claimed dole and went fishing.
Wow.
That's all I did.
And that was the light bulb moment when you realised everyone else is telling you to do it because they've already done it. That's quite a path that, if I'm honest, I could even say I maybe fell into, because you go to school and next thing is you do your A-levels and the next thing is you've got to go to uni, and it's true how many...
It's conveyor belt.
Yeah, how many people fall into that?
These days, people are starting to think about it a bit more closely, I think, because now they're realising actually you still don't get a job, or it takes you so long to pay it back by doing, going all the way through a degree or even MSc and PhD, and they're starting to work out, actually, is that the best thing for me? And there's a lot more careers than the few that they tell you about. Oh, you're going to be an accountant, or you're going to be a solicitor, or you're going to be a architect. There's more. There's way more jobs. I mean, look at your profession now. Nobody ever told you that you could be this?
Not at all. No, never. I didn't do anything to do with media or fishing.
So basically, you don't have to be fitted into these. You don't have to accept it. They're fitted into these boxes. You can actually work out where you want to go. So back to the same thing about following what you like. And you've made some decisions that allowed you to be in what I believe you really enjoy in your profession. And it's the same as Toby.
Have you got any kids, David?
Yeah.
What advice do you give them when you're talking about this kind of thing? Because obviously a lot of parents will be listening and thinking, my kids are going through that now.
Parents hate me because I like my nieces and nephews. I tell them this sort of stuff. I say, look, you just work out what it is you want to do, or just have a good guess. Just do that. Don't believe you've got to do, you've got to study for this and do really well at that, because the parents are just trying to live through you. They want to compete with other parents. Look how good my kid is. And so the parents don't really like me talking to them very much.
I think it's great. That's why we're talking about it now. That's what this is all about.
It's brilliant advice.
Yeah. Do what you want to do. Just go and do it.
But it's ever so hard to do it because we're all social animals. I was really unfortunate in my upbringing, and really fortunate because I never had that social training from my parents. There's none. So I was free of what you're supposed to do and you should do and you ought to do, and thinking about other people and all that. And it's very unsettling. That's one of the reasons why things were difficult for me. It's very unsettling because there's no set guidelines. There's no concrete there. There's nothing sort of rigid to support you. That's why people do what they're supposed to do, because it's hard to work out where you're going to go for yourself. It's easy to go along with what people are telling you because it's more supporting, more supportful, if that's a real word.
The comfort's there. There's a path there for me to walk on in front of me.
But it's dangerous. It's really dangerous because you end up doing a job that ticks all the boxes. You've got enough money to get married and have kids and pay for things and go on a holiday once a year but is it really as enjoyable and rewarding, as fulfilling a life as it could be if you actually pushed the envelope and lived a bit more uncomfortably? So even with my kids growing up with me, poor things, they've had to they have to be quite hard and tough to even start veering off.
I think people in general do veer off that path that is so in front of people and set out for them now. It is difficult to veer off, but again, great to hear it from someone who has done it. And one thing you've used a few times, you said very uncomfortable. You said you lived in squalor. in these early days, like after university? So you went to uni, you realised this conveyor belt of education, came out of it, back home to dad, and you said you went on the dole.
Yeah.
And that term you used, lived in squalor, and just went fishing. What was that like? What did you actually do? What was living in squalor for David Preston and on the dole for David Preston? Tell me about that.
Well, I was hungry because I literally hungry. So I go fishing. One of the places, for instance, I went fishing was Martin Mere, which is now in the carp world is well known as the mangrove.
Right.
Which it wasn't Tim Paisley that actually named it that. It was me.
You called it the mangrove.
And it was me who discovered the pool and invited Tim along.
Ah.
And then it became what it became. So I was fishing now, and I was doing a lot of thinking because I was trying to sort of solve my problems of feeling this uncomfortable. And I realised that actually the reason why it made me feel better by doing this sort of fishing was that focus I mentioned, and it just simplifies your life. Some people become really devoutly religious, and other people become whatever. So I realised that, and I thought, well, why don't I change something about what I do, so I've still got that focus that makes my life more bearable, but actually has a bit of money coming in from it. So because I was hungry, I was down to 7.5 stone at one point.
Wow.
This height. So that's seriously.
Yeah, you're not
thin.
a small guy. You're a tall chap, 7.5 stone.
And I thought, okay, so I started thinking about it, and because of the way I think about things, I tend to just carry on with the principles, work out the principles. So I was thinking, well, okay, so I could do this, and that make me a bit of money, and I'd still be doing something, this other thing. And it could have been a normal career and things like that. So I was thinking about all these different things, and then eventually it sort of dawned on me that I may as well have the single goal of making money, and then I've got the money. And I've got a single goal, and so I feel better, and I'm not hungry. So it's really stupid, but simple, simple, but not stupid. So I thought, well, okay, so how do you make money? So I started thinking about that, and I worked out that really it's about programming your own brain to be to seek a goal, to seek a target. But this time it was about money. So I started trying to work out how people's minds work, and therefore mine. And I was reading all these different books. It could be salesmen's books, because they're very focused on getting sales. And so I read all those books, and I read lots of psychological books, and I read one that was very 1960s, 70s sort of idea, sort of all stemmed from the hippie era, love and peace, and how the mind works, and all this sort of stuff. And it was on about, our minds are like guided missiles. And so how a guided missile works is focused on this one thing it's aiming at, and it's correcting as it goes along. It's got a little bit of off target. It might be, I don't know, probably heat-seeking missiles in those days. It's gone off target, so it corrects itself when it realises it, and it goes over there, and it goes too far the other way, and then so it corrects itself like this. But you've got to have that one goal. And so I carried on looking at how the mind works, and I realised that you can actually program your brain to be absolutely focused on one thing. And so the one thing I was going to be focused on, just cutting it really short, was I set myself a goal of making money. So I set myself a goal using self-hypnosis and all this sort of stuff.
When you say self-hypnosis, what do you mean by that, David?
You talk to yourself in a certain way. It's a known thing. You can Google it. It's just talking to yourself in a certain way, and that programs your brain about that one thing that you've already chosen consciously, and then you talk to yourself in a certain way. And so I did that, and my goal was I decided I'd make £1 million in 5 years.
Wow.
So bearing in mind,
£1 million? Yeah,
which is more then than it is now.
And what was you getting on? What was your payments? What was your money situation then?
£32 a week, I think it was. Something
7.5 stone, hungry.
Yeah.
Earning £32 a week off the dole.
Yeah.
And you read some books and thought, I'm going to make £1 million in 5 years.
Yeah. And so I told everyone, because again, you've seen all my sort of invisible spectrum disability things, so I got no idea of how things work with people. So I went around and told everyone.
Who did you tell?
Family, friends, my aunts and uncles that always used to look after me and feed me every now and again. And I was told them, of course, they were just like, oh, this silly person. That's never going to happen.
Did you think they had no concept of you being able to do it, or?
I never thought about it. It was just like, this is what I'm going to do, and that's the end of that. Never. I did notice that they didn't really take me seriously, and I thought that was a bit puzzling.
Because I'm trying to be serious here, folks. I'm going to make £1 million in 5 years.
Yeah. So it is. It's weird. But actually, I failed. It took me 5 years.
So you wanted it to happen in 4?
Yeah.
And it took you 5?
5, yeah.
Oh, right. Well, it's not too bad a journey.
No.
How the hell did you get off the ground with it? From being on £32 a week?
A lot of people have said, how did you actually make the money? And they want me to tell them about particular products and the actual little nitty-gritty stuff, but it's not really about that. It's about setting the goal, because the goal could be anything. It's just about setting the goal. It's big picture stuff, working out how you think about things. It's not really. So what I did, having set the goal to make the money, then how do I do it? I tried all sorts of different things. I invented various things and tried to sell them by, it was called, it wasn't called online selling then, it was called mail order.
Right.
So I invented something I put in the local Newport Gazette or whatever it was called, Newport advertising this particular product, which I've managed to make for nothing.
What was it, David, out of curiosity? What were the product that you came up with?
Well, people won't understand it now, but it was to stop cats pulling out people's rubbish out of the bins. Because in those days you didn't have wheelie bins, you had these metal mesh things, and the cats used to stick their claws through and pull everything out, and it'd be strewn all over the road the next day, you see. So I thought, right, I'll make something that stops that happening. So I found all this plastic mesh and some twist tie things that you put around bread bags when you buy a bag.
At the top of them to stop air coming in. Yeah.
And so from the garden centre, I bought little lengths of this plastic meshing, which was, the holes were too small for a cat paw, cut it to size, and then sold it as a cat bin protector.
And how did it go? Did that get off the ground?
I did sell some amazingly.
Right.
But it didn't really work. I was never going to make any money at that, so I had to keep thinking. And
you're still fishing all the time at this point?
Oh, yeah.
You're still on the bank?
Yeah, I never stopped fishing.
And yet never, was there any other, because £32 a week, dole money, and you're trying to
I carried on claiming dole, so that's like criminal, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know about that. Did you, no other jobs, no other work or anything at that time?
Well, I did actually, at some point, I left when I was 21, university. It was probably about 22 and a half, 23 something. I actually got a seasonal job at the Fjuka Baits factory. My brother-in-law, the one who got me into fishing in the first place, he said, why don't you come here? And so I earned money for 3 months of the year, and then I got that, and then I went on dole again as a seasonal worker. They tried to stop that happening, but they didn't succeed. And then, apart from the close season, I go fishing all the rest of the year.
So you worked, got enough money to go fishing, got your dole money, and then you carried on trying to invent some. What was life like working in the Fjukabaits factory for you?
Well, that was interesting. They sort of they sacked me after a bit.
Well, it's the way you say it. Well, that was interesting. They sort of they sacked me after a bit.
Well, the reason why they sacked me was quite interesting. Again, it was my social ineptitude, because I'd come from university, and there's a lot of lab work in the university in the course I did. So I ended up doing this menial job in the Fjukabaits factory, where you just go around with jugs every 10 past the hour, 20 past the hour, and all the rest of it, and get these samples of ever concentrating sugar solutions boiling hot, and then you go and do some tests on them in the lab, and then you write it all down on a form. And I was only there for about 2 weeks, and I thought, if they did this in a different order, and change things around, just in the order they take them, they'd save, and I calculated it, 300,000 quid a year.
Oh,
Which was a lot more money then, and it was for doing nothing other than just changing the order of taking the test. So I told my supervisor, and he said, you can tell Alan that, I'm not telling him. So he wanted me to go straight to his boss, and he looked like Peter Sutcliffe. Because at the time the Jack the Ripper was all happening.
Right.
And it's Peter Sutcliffe. And
You sure it wasn't him?
Well, it's very weird. It wasn't him.
Right.
But he got the same beard. He was very tall, and he used to get really angry. And he had actually spent some time in an institution to help him be more sane.
Wow.
And he used to brag that he was the only person there who could prove he was sane because he got a certificate to say so.
It's a bit scary, isn't it?
But he used to get really angry. So anyway, off I go, like the Spectro man I am, and said to Alan, is his name.
Alan's the angry Peter Sutcliffe.
Yeah, I said, you've I can save you 300,000 quid, and he said, why? How? Well, I said, well, you just got to change the order, and he said, well, no, we're not doing that. I said, well, look, you got to, because it saved money. It's a no-brainer. And he just got more and more angry, and he started towering over me, and he started going red in the face, and he started shouting at me. And in the end, his famous, to me, words were, Preston, you are paid to do as you're told. So do as you're told and fuck off.
Wow. And how did that make you feel?
I just couldn't understand it. I thought that's crazy.
You've just told him how to save 300 grand a year.
Yeah. So, but that didn't stop me. So they had something called a shift supervisor. So you're outside the lab now. It's the person in charge of the whole of the factory during a particular shift, 3 shifts. So I went to see him, and he got really angry with me and said, stop it. And I didn't do that either. So I went to the big boss, and he was very polite, and he didn't shout at me, but nothing happened. And at the end of the year, end of the season happened, and the next year I was not invited back.
Wow.
So I was effectively sacked for the way.
That's unbelievable though. You'd think they'd take you up on it, wouldn't you? Who wouldn't want to...
Well, it would cause trouble. What I worked out eventually was you have to take it's a continuous process, and if you don't do things according to the 8 hours, then it might cause, sort of once or twice a week, a problem of having to work a bit harder at the start of a shift for the next shift. Whereas I'm just thinking about the process, not about the people. I didn't really care about whether someone's got to work a bit harder. Well, instead of having their coffee break at the beginning of the shift, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's not black and white. It is black and white, and so that's what they were thinking of. They didn't want to upset the next shift.
You know what's really interesting when I listen to that story though? It's that missile analogy again, that the missile's going along, they could save 300 grand, but they're going to have to miss the coffee break in the morning, and someone's going to have to work harder, and they haven't got that.
Well, the thing is, if you set yourself a target, you work out exactly what you want. You have to also work out what you're going to lose, because to actually concentrate on something, making decisions in favour of that thing you're working on, it means you've got to say no to other things.
And a lot of people, especially in this day and age, must find that quite difficult because there is so many distractions.
Because
you're
like,
expected to.
I haven't had the most enjoyable life, and it's a lot better now, and I'm really happy. I've sort of grown into being a more rounded person, you might say. So I was unlucky to feel the way I did growing up. But it made it possible for me to make those decisions because I got less to lose. So someone who was more being brought up better and more sociable and got a more rounded life with more enjoyment in their life, so it could come from the family, or it could be going to the pub every Friday or whatever, they've got a much more enjoyable life at that point than I had. And I was very aware of that. So it was easier for me to actually know this is what I'm going to do, and because of the way I was, I've got less to lose. But I also knew that it made sense for me because I got less to lose, and I could get all these benefits, which could compensate for it. Because what it does, doesn't it? Making a load of money does make a lot of things a lot easier.
And it's that focus. It's that one thing again, the fishing. So you tried the device from the garden centre to stop cats getting into bins. Made it a little bit, but it were never going to be successful. What were next? You're back fishing again.
Oh, fishing all the time anyway.
And
so the next thing I think was I went in, there was a magazine called, I forgot what it's called.
Yeah. Which one's this kicking in here now? Anomia.
Yeah. That's
Anomia.
It. Yeah.
It's a magazine. It's a noun. Who cares?
Yeah. So anyway, this magazine, they had an area in it where it said business opportunities,
right,
which actually really meant business opportunities for the people putting the adverts in for businesses for you, because they made a load of money out of you trying to do the thing that they were offering you. So the one I chose.
Did you know that at the time?
Yeah.
So you thought?
Yeah, because I just knew, but I wanted to find out. So there was this one where basically you buy a load of leaflets and a load of books off this opportunity provider, and then you go around delivering all these leaflets through letterboxes in your local neighbourhood, and then you will get a certain percentage of people responding to you and buying some books off you, and you sell them the books and you make a profit. And I thought, I'm not sure about this, so I persuaded them, I don't know how, just to send me the leaflets, and then I'll buy the books later to fit. So that's what happened. So I delivered 1,000 leaflets and never had one reply. So that didn't work.
That's proof of what you initially thought.
Or at least it didn't cost me a load of books. And then what was next? And then I invented something which people have made since, actually. I invented a thing, automatic motorbike chain oiler, that worked on the wobbling around that a rear wheel on a motorbike does. Because I used to sit on the back of my dad's bike at one point, and I'd look at the wheel going up and down, jerking away, and I'm thinking, oh God, he's always oiling this chain. I think you put a little reservoir on there with a little plunger that jobbed up and down as you went over bumps, and that would let a drop of oil out and continually oil the chain. So
brilliant idea.
Yeah, it's not bad, and people have done it since then. But I tried to make them, and I hadn't got enough money to be able to have the tools to make them accurately enough to actually seal when they weren't working. So you'd have all these drips coming out when the bike was stationary, and that's not good enough. So I hadn't got enough money to do that. And then the next one was the one that Cliff Fox tried to put me out of business on, which was, I worked out, because Cliff Fox just came out with adjustable legged bed chair.
I'm sorry for my... Who is Cliff Fox? I'm ignorant to who that is.
You never heard of Fox?
The fishing company Fox?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the guy who started that was called Cliff Fox.
Got ya. Right. Okay.
Very successful, good businessman.
Huge business, Fox.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. So
he brought extendable bed chair legs out?
No, he brought out a bed chair with extendable legs.
Okay.
Which, great idea. And he was selling these. They were really expensive.
What we talking?
I can't really remember. I bet they're about 150 quid, which at that time is like 600 quid now or something. It was a good idea. Everyone used these really crappy loss leader bed chairs, sun loungers for 5 quid from B&Q and places like that. They're always going wrong though, and then got adjustable legs. And I worked out you could just drill off the legs that were on them and put some adjustable legs on, and then it'll be like 25 quid. So that's got to be a good one. So I found that Maggie Thatcher would give me £40 a week on a little enterprise allowance scheme thing to get people be self-employed. And there was a place in Telford that gave me a white line within a great big warehouse for £5 a week. And so I set up there to make these things. And I bought all these scrap bed chairs and drilled the legs off and made new ones and taught myself how to do things like welding and drilling and all the rest of it. And sold those by mail order again.
How, I've got to ask you, like, because I've still got this vision. of a 7.5 stone starving lad, how did you learn things like welding and stuff? Because surely that must cost some money to learn that kind of thing.
Well, in this warehouse with this white line, there was a payphone they could use on the wall. There was a little office block where they would do typing for you and answer the phone for you. And there was an area with machines I'd never seen before, like shapers, but other machines I had, like pedestal drills, lathes, milling machines, and stuff like this. And so I used to just go and try these things out. They tried to stop me doing it because I hadn't health and safety existed even then, and I got no training. But I just did it, at night time when they weren't around. So I taught myself how to do all these different things.
Right.
Because you do.
And just learn.
You just have to.
Off your own back, went and did it.
Yeah.
Right.
So at this time I was, I don't know. So I started getting in trouble with Cliff Fox because he thought I was a proper business. And so he kept sending me these patent solicitor letters that must cost him a fortune, but he didn't care because he's rich. And I sort of ignored them for a while, but I started doing a bit of research as much as I could to find out whether that his patent for adjustable-legged bed chair was a valid one. And at the time in match fishing world, there was something called an ASI box, which got adjustable legs.
I can remember ASI boxes.
In the patent world, a seat is a seat, a chair is a seat, a sun lounger, a bed chair is still a chair, is still a seat. So in the patent world, it's a bit dodgy to be able to actually say this particular one is patentable, which is Cliff Fox's bed chair with adjustable legs. And so I was doing all this, and somehow I'd met Kevin Nash somewhere. And so he knew who I was, and he knew I was having trouble with Cliff Fox and the patent, and he knew I was doing research. So he kept phoning me up on the payphone.
What, at the little white line business place? 40 quid a week place?
Yeah.
Right.
So I used to tell him, where I got to with my research.
This is Kevin Nash,
Yeah.
who runs Nash, the big carp brand.
Yeah. So he was having some trouble as well. I think he wanted to do the same things Cliff Fox was doing. So he wanted to know what I was finding out. So I used to tell him all these different things. And at the same time, I was getting more and more angry patent solicitors letters. So what I did is I found there was an offshoot of a patent solicitors in Telford. And so I knocked on their door. And I didn't know this was happening at the time. But the founder's son of Barker, Brettle and Duncan, so this guy was Mr. Duncan. It was his grandfather who started the patent business in, I don't know, 1855 or something, a long time. And this guy was really old. He was really old. And he must have taken me under his wing. Well, I didn't realise any of this, but he just kept on. I used to go and tell him my problems, and then he would write a letter for me, a solicitor's letter, back to Cliff Fox's patent agents. And it went back and forth a few times. And he was doing all this for free. And I didn't even think about it. And he'd just taken pity on me. And one day I got this final one from Cliff Fox threatening to take me to court, properly. And I said to Mr. Duncan, I said, look, we need to tell him to stop it, either put up or shut up, because I'm quite happy with that. So I was like bluffing. I'm quite happy with being taken to court because basically then the rest of the world would know that his patent was worthless. And I sent that off. I never heard from him again.
Never.
And I was absolutely penniless.
And you was right, obviously.
What is right?
Yeah.
Whoever wins the war is right.
Yeah. Amazing. So what happened from there? You're making these bed chair legs.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I'm making it. It actually sold all right. But then a local tackle shop guy, and this is why I got into match fishing, even though I'm a carp angler. So the first product was carp anglers. Second product was my local shop. They were all run by match anglers in those days, virtually. He said to me, "Oh, you never sell any carp fishing stuff, right? It's carp fishing. You never sell anything. They even sharpen their own hooks. How can you make any money? It'll never work." And he said, "Well, what you should do is you'd make adjustable legs that go on. You could bolt them onto tackle boxes like the Shakespeare Galaxy box, and that would be good." So I made some of them, and I started selling those mail order in the fishing mags. And so that was actually I was actually starting to make a little bit of money.
And is this all from the White Lines business place
Yeah,
still? So
yeah.
it's still from the 40 quid a week grants, and
yeah.
it's really early stage. I
Yeah.
just want to build that picture.
Yeah.
Super. Wow. Right.
And Dave Costa really helped me out. Dave Costa used to write for Angler's Mail.
You used to see, does he still write there? I'm sure.
I think on and off he does. I don't think it's quite the same.
Yeah,
Well, Angler Mail is packed up anyway.
But he's still a known
Yeah, he's a
person
known
in
angler and a
fishing.
journalist, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he got a bad back, and he said, "Oh, these are brilliant," and he wrote all these rave reviews for me. It was great. And then next thing I know, I got an agent. And an agent said, "I can sell these for you." And so he started selling the stuff, and he was a match angler.
Who was the agent?
I can't remember.
Right.
I can't remember. I don't think he was with me for very long. He saw the second agent was Mick Slater, and he's so noisy, I think he just scares everyone else off. But it's great.
I know Mick.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a lovely bloke.
You know what I'm on about.
Hey up, we've got a fire alarm.
Ooh.
That's toilet break time.
Not had that before, have we?
Mick Slater.
Shall we carry on?
Let's carry on.
You want to go? Keep going?
I'll go from Mick Slater. You ready? That'll be quite funny. Just leave that in tow. You heard that, folks, didn't you? Sorry, anyone listening. So Mick Slater, I know Mick. Yeah, lovely
Yeah.
bloke. Bit loud, you said.
So he came up with various products, but all match fishing products.
Yeah.
Because he's a match angler. The shops are all match angling. And so I'm a businessman. I'm there to achieve my goal, which is to make money. I'm not there to be a famous angler or anything, or carp angler or anything like that. I'm there to make money. That's what the goal is. But at the same time, Phil Briscoe from East Anglian Rod Company, which is massive, the biggest distributor of fishing tackle in this country, absolutely massive. He got in touch with me, he phoned me up and said, "Oh, how about I want to sell your stuff through East Anglian Rod Company, and you'll sell thousands of them." And I said, "Yeah, great." And then it turned out that I would have to stop selling them mail order. He said, "You can't do that." And I said, "Well, I can't market them. I can't spend advertising money that I haven't got to keep the people interested in them if I'm not getting money in." And so we couldn't agree. So Phil Briscoe, who's a friend of mine now, he basically wouldn't sell it through East Anglian Rod Company. And so I was forced to carry on with my own distribution, if you can call it that, at that stage.
Which was literally walking in tackle shops.
Well, other people did. I would never do that.
Yeah,
I'm on the spectrum. There's no way I'm going to walk into tackle shops and try selling things. It wouldn't work. So he sort of helped me along. I told him the other day that he didn't know this. Only the other day I said, thanks to you that I actually started Preston Innovations.
Amazing. And obviously a lot of people recognise Phil from Maver and
Maver. Yeah, he did a fantastic job building that up really quickly. Yeah.
Really interesting. So
I had to carry on making my own stuff, and then I got more agents, and they kept saying, "Why don't you do this and why don't you do that?" And then I came out with all these innovative products that nobody else had thought of, which are now become standard products in the match fishing world.
I've got to ask you, now you've said that word innovative, where did the name come from? Obviously we know it as Preston Innovations. Where did that originate from?
Well,
was that a thing in the really early days?
When I did the bed chair legs,
yeah,
I was very innovative in the name I gave myself, which was Dave Preston Convertible Bed Chair Legs.
That was a business name.
And the guy who ran the warehouse to help people set up in business said to me one day, he said, "It might be a bit limiting in future products and where you can go with this to be called Dave Preston Converted Bed Chair Legs." So he said, "Maybe you should be called something like Preston Innovations." So I did.
And that was it?
Yeah.
And it's still there now?
Yeah.
So that name, that's really cool. That name originated from the 40 quid a week White Lines business place.
Yeah, and the guy, he later on tried to get rid of me because he said I was a no-hoper, but I think he was wrong.
I think he was pretty wrong. Talking about that, how long did you stay there for? At what point did you move out of this small shared place and realise you could, when did you get big enough to move it on from there?
What happened was, so I got a white line, and then I started earning a bit of money. So if you were really doing well in this same warehouse, they had some breeze block units. They hadn't got a ceiling on, it's still within this huge warehouse. excuse me. But you had a door.
Mm.
And so I rented one of those, and then I rented another one, and then I rented another one, and I ended up having nearly the whole warehouse. And so I thought, oh, I think I need somewhere proper. So then I bought somewhere. Excuse me.
It's all right. Get a drink, mate. Have a water.
just up the road. And so I had this other place,
Mm.
and I kept half the units, and then I bought another place and another place, and it just got bigger and bigger as things do.
Got you.
So the
Amazing.
timeline, I don't know. Not very good at timelines. Probably 3-4 years. Yeah, it was 3 or 4 years I've sort of moved.
Really interesting. So we're in the White Line place still, David.
Are we?
And well, it's growing. You're growing out of it. I love that way you've described it. I've got this vision in my head of like a little taped off area, and all this is happening in that. It gives it that gritty, raw feel. But what came next after the bed chair legs, and they're ticking along, and the seat box legs, and it's ticking along?
More and more match angling stuff.
Right.
So someone would tell me, like Mick Slater, make some adjustable pole rests that go on the side of your Galaxy seat box.
Right.
So I made those, and then he said, no, I didn't mean that. What he really meant was a pole crook. So I made a pole crook. And then these all started selling because they were just quite different and worked really well. So
what exactly were they? When you say a pole crook, pole rest.
So in the days
what
when
we're
you had a
talking
seat box, which was like just a plastic box, high fit pole rest, I called it. So it's got an over and under. So it's got two things on little slidey adjusters, and the first one was on the front was that way up, so your pole would rest on it, and the back one, all on an adjuster, was that way up, so the weight of the pole would actually
Got you. Up and over jobs.
And then you could adjust it to get it exactly the right level, so you could then, if you're a bit like me trying to match angling, I can't actually hold a pole and throw things out and catapult things. So you put it in there, because lots of anglers are very average and not professionals like yourself.
I don't know about that.
So and then what Mick Slater wanted, because he was proper match angler, still is. He just wanted the pole crook, which was just the back one, which was that way, and your knee was the front rest.
So you could rest it across. Yeah.
So that's what he wanted. That didn't sell as well as the up and over one
that you would come up with on your own, really.
Yeah, mistakenly. Yeah.
So it's still working on that metal wary seat box.
Yeah.
Legs
So I made
thing.
everything myself by hand, and then I took someone on to help me, because when I did the costings of everything, I always worked out how much it would cost if I paid someone else to do it, because obviously you're very limited in the amount of hours you can work. You know, one person can only work, well, theoretically, 24 hours a day, and there's 7 days in a week. So you can only do so much work, so you can never get very big if you're doing that. You have to be able to put in enough margin for profit and still make a profit to be able to pay someone to do the work.
Got you. And what came of that? At what point what's your money situation at this time? You've got the pole crooks going out there.
So they were all making a bit of money, and it was starting to get where I could actually eat.
What's a bit of money? Can't
really remember. I think I managed to get to about £10,000 a year,
right?
Which was like a lot of money from where I come from. But it wasn't going to help me. It would only help me as a stepping stone to get to where I was going to go next and next and next and next to get to the target I was going to.
And we've got this £1 million in 4 years at the end of the road all the time. Yeah,
that's what it's all about. So then Mick Slater told me Vinnie Smith, who used to fish for England, I believe, had said there was a problem with how to fit elastic in poles, how to anchor them. And the only thing you could anchor the elastic and hold it in place on the second section or the first section or the third section was using Stomfo pole anchors. And what they were, there was a disc of plastic with a little hook in the center, and that had to fit perfectly on the end of the section so that it wasn't too big, so that the next pole section would fit over it. And so the shopkeeper had to have I don't know how many, but maybe 30 sizes, maybe more than that actually. And so they'd have a drawer with loads and loads of little boxes in, and you had to someone come in and say, "Can you elasticate my pole, please?" And he had to get the section and then keep trying the ones in and everything, and eventually you find the right one. And I thought that's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. The bungs that go in the end.
Yeah.
And
I thought that's insane. That is. So the shopkeeper's got to stock all this stock, and he's got to have the space for it, and he's got to spend the time to do it, and he's got to fit them for the angler. It's just so stupid. And I thought about it. It actually gave me a headache. I thought about this so much for about 3 weeks before I came up with the answer to it. And eventually I thought, well, a cone is an infinite number of circles, an infinite number of sizes to fit into a pole of any size. And if you had a cone, you can just cut it to the right size. And so I thought, well, how do you get it out if you have it fitting in? Because some pole sections fit in and some pole sections fit out. So how do you actually get it out? So then I had to work out how to attach a thread to the pointy end so that it could still cut the circle to the cone to the right diameter. And so I worked out how to do that. And I got no money, so I had to find things that were mass produced already, because I couldn't afford an injection molding thing. I got no money. I couldn't do anything like that. So I used to scour through all these catalogues of existing products, and I found in one catalogue mastic cylinder cones.
Right.
You know, the ones you go like this when you're doing your bathroom sealer.
Yeah. The end bit off it, basically.
Yeah. You could buy them separately. I found you could buy 20,000 of them, great big boxes, and they worked out something like 0.6p each or something like that. And I thought, I could bear with that. So I made a tool myself that would basically use a sanding knife to chop the front end and the back end. So there's a block of metal with two size holes. You put the cone in by hand, chop the little end off, put it into the next big hole, and it chopped the big end off. So then you got a cone. So it cost me 0.63p in a little bit of time. And then I needed the thread to be able to pull it out. So I got some sea fishing line. Well, I don't know what it was, £60 or £100 or something like that, breaking strain. That would do the tail. And then I got to attach it to the front of the cone. And I went through some electronic gizmos catalogues, and I found a little connector that they use for printed circuit boards to attach them in place. And I found if I chop the end of that off, another chopping thing, then I've then got this little pointy thing that I could lodge in the front of the cone. And they cost me, I think they're quite expensive actually. I think they were about 1.3p each. And then I need a little brass disc to attach the line to the pointy thing, which I then put into the cone. So the whole thing, including the packaging, which was really crap, cost me, I think it was 13 pence, including labour.
Right.
So it cost me 13 pence, and I sold them for, if I remember rightly, £1.13.
Is this labour, you doing it yourself, or labour someone coming and doing it?
Whatever, whether I did it.
Right.
I think it was £6 per hour labour, which was quite a lot then. So either if I did it, I got the money, and if I paid somebody else, they got the money. But it cost me 13 pence, and I sell them all at £1.13, so it's £1 clear on each one. And I sold over 100,000 in the first year. So that's
wow. So that's the big step.
Yeah, and that allowed me. Everything's just a step. Everything's a stepping stone to the next stepping stone. So that allowed me to do other things and more things and more things.
Can I ask, like, how did you feel, David? Because for me, for a long time, you've gone from quite literally nothing, trying to invent things, sell things, quite a few different things, and you've had a little taster with the seat box legs, the crook. But when that 100,000 of what you invented, and you saw it go, and you saw 100,000 sell, how did that make you feel? Did you feel in any way celebratory, or was it? Did you feel accomplished that you'd done that?
No, not really, because with being the way I am, excuse me, on the spectrum, it's just like, right, okay, done that.
No parties, no like, right, we've sold a load of them.
No.
Let's.
It's my birthday. I think it's tomorrow. My wife's birthday, day after tomorrow, and we're going to London, and she is celebrating, So I'm going along with it because I'm a good husband. But I don't really understand it.
You're funny. You are so funny.
Well, I'm not trying to be funny. It's just the way I am.
I think that's something a lot of our audience will
Yeah.
probably really relate to.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't celebrate. That sums it up though. Like that. I find it amazing. Like for so many people, that's a milestone. I've worked so hard to get this product and sell it, and you've done it so successfully, all on your own from nothing. And I'm just interested to hear how you sort of felt after doing that. And it for you, I just envisage it as it's just this journey.
Yeah.
You're still thinking.
Yeah, it's just, all it is a journey. So, when I made but by the time I worked out, I was a millionaire on paper anyway, because a lot of it's in stock and debt that's owed to you and all the rest of it, but it's still a millionaire. Even when I did that, there was no, I didn't even think about celebrating.
Amazing. What did you do with the money? So when you sold 100,000 of them, there's a lot of money coming in. How did you spend that, or what did you do with that? Because it must have been very different for you all of a sudden having all that.
Not really, not the slightest bit different. Because it's just, you just invest it into other things. That is the next step. So for me, I'm going there. It's not quite like I've described, actually. Although you read a lot of these books that tell you how to be a millionaire and everything, they say you fix your goal and that's what you go for, and that's what I've said. But it's not quite like that, because for me, it's a bit of a movable feast. So every step that you take towards your goal, you see different possibilities. There's a different horizon there. Imagine you're going on a long walk. Every step is very slightly different horizon, and so there's different opportunities. So it might pay to go a bit to the left, if something comes up that will help you get where you want to get, or it might come to the right. So every step I took, if I get a load of money, that's a different horizon, because that means then that I could invest it in, say, an injection molding machine that I couldn't have done before, or it could enable me to do such and such thing. So it's just all the time it's readjusting.
And that willingness to adapt and change with it is obviously
and
a
people
strength.
find that uncomfortable as well, because I've started this business for bait called Fjuka, as you know, and the people around me, the business model has changed about 4 times in the last 2 years, and that's fine with me. You got to go wherever it takes you.
Can I ask, I don't want to go back and dwell on stuff, but I've got this question I personally want to ask you. Like the things that didn't work, so the cat retention tool, cat guard, the bike chain oiler, all of the selling the books and stuff. Like, how did you ever get down personally? Did it ever make you feel down and low or upset when it didn't work?
No, because there's a cliche about this. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's basically every failure is good for me. There's some particular saying about it, and there's like Thomas Edison when he was trying to invent the light bulb, and someone who was already famous for doing other stuff, and some news reporter was interviewing him saying, "How do you feel? Like you keep failing. You've done all these and you've still not got anywhere." And he said something famously like, "Well, I've worked out 1,000 ways that don't work to make a light bulb." And
that's really good.
Makes total sense.
But it really is. It's not a cliche for me. It absolutely is totally true that every time you try something, you got an idea, and you try it out, and it doesn't work. I'm a little bit frustrated, I suppose. It'd be great if it worked first time, but I don't really expect it. I try to act as if it is going to work, but it doesn't really matter to me, because when it fails, you find out what you could do, because it feeds you back what went wrong, what didn't work, and therefore which way to go for the next little have a go. It's an iterative process, so you just keep trying, and it doesn't really matter because you know you're going to get there. So you just get closer and closer.
Really interesting.
So,
really interesting. I love it.
So there's loads of products which never saw the light of day.
Yeah. I think it's great for people who might be trying stuff now, or just life in general.
Perfectionism is a killer, because how it works is you put everything into trying this thing and it doesn't work. Oh, yeah, it's terrible. It's got to work, but it doesn't. And it just destroys you trying to get things perfect. You just don't even bother trying to get it perfect. Just have a jab at it. Have a little prod and see what happens. And knowing full well that will inform your next step, rather than trying to get it right and expecting it to be right first time.
Every move is a strength. Every move is a building. I really like it. I really like the mindset. We've got these bungs out. What did you call them?
Unibungs.
The Unibung. And that was a Preston Innovations product.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And what came after the Unibung?
I think a diamond eye threader.
That was about the last piece of fishing tackle I bought, believe it or not.
Was it?
Yeah. This weekend I was...
Was it a Preston Innovations one?
It was a new fish one, believe it or not.
No,
That's terrible, isn't it?
Mick Viles,
Oh, yeah.
ex-Preston Innovation employee, skanking off me. Terrible.
It was a new fish one. I was threading my top kits up.
There's
and I needed
millions
some.
of manufacturers. I mean, look, India and China, there's loads of people who make them.
Tell me about Diamond Eye, though. How did it come from you?
Well, I spotted a problem. So what happens is, or used to happen, is that the threaders were twisted steel, stainless steel, with a little, smallest that they could get, little eye in the end, a little circular hole. And you put your elastic in there, and then you threaded the wire through the pole, because it's easy to do. You can't thread elastic through. And that pulled it through. But the trouble was, because the smallest hole end they could do on the wire was actually bigger than a fine tip of a pole section. Because in those days they used to be like really thin, because they're trying to get every inch further.
The very tip of the number one section.
It's different now, because people want really strong poles, so it's not quite so important. But people would pull the elastic through and it would crack at the tip of the pole section, which is a bad thing. And this wasn't my idea. The guy who was working for me said, my wife does a lot of sewing and she's using something, and I think might have even called a diamond eye or something. And it's a little thing for threading needles with cotton.
Got ya.
And I thought, oh, great, that's a great idea. I adapted that and made the tool using a Black and Decker drill and some welded up pieces of ironmongery, and made a special little end which made the shape. And then I just whizzed them all up one by one and cut them off. So that was, so it's another standard of the industry. The same as Unibungs is a standard of the industry now.
Both them products still sell by the thousand today.
Oh, yeah.
Simply amazing. And what I want to ask is, I've got this £1 million figure in 4 years in my head, and so far I've got a pole bung, a diamond eye threader, and what fills the void? What is it that got you to the £1 million mark? This target you'd have in your mind for so long.
I can't really remember, because it's like a J curve. So it starts off slow and then it gets faster and faster. So I expanded really quickly, loads more new products, selling more and more of what I was doing. I started selling the Unibungs in Italy and everywhere except for France, because French are really weird. Well, I love the French, and I love the French food and the way of life. They've got a lot of things right over there, but they're very nationalistic and don't like taking on other people's stuff. So started selling more and more of those things. So that was expanding. But then I came up with loads of other products like PTFE bushes and then elastic. And then I came up with the idea of colour coding the elastic, which is another... I mean, where would you be without colour-coded elastic?
It's frightening. Put it in my pole 5 or 6
times a year. You just
know
what it is. You just know what it is, don't you? By the fact it's colour-coded.
Every pole angler uses it now.
Excuse me. So, I mean, that was big. There's like, I was selling to Milo and Trabuco and Tubertini and Fassa and then loads of people in Europe. And I sold a lot. Excuse me.
During the early days, David, or during this expansion time, obviously you're still probably more, with complete respect, I don't know how to put this without sounding a bit weird, but like other people might not know the company as well and stuff as it's growing. And in the early days, how did you cope with like competition, and did anyone try and infringe on what you were doing? Yeah, you're this new
Are you on
person.
about Dick Clegg copying me?
I don't know, not mentioning any names. You tell me.
Well, Dick Clegg, who is we're friends about it all now. It's 'cause it was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know Dick quite well
But
myself.
he was very successful, as you know, a brilliant manager of the England team. Led us to victory year after year after year. He had a float manufacturing company called Britannia Floats, I think.
Yeah.
And he had a Range Rover. I mean, he made a lot of money. And next thing I know, his company is copying the Unibung. So I phoned him up and said, "Oi, yeah, that's not right." And we had a bit of a row on the phone. And he said, "Well, it's just the way life is. Get used to it," sort of attitude. And I said, "Well, I don't think that's right because everybody admires you, and I've always looked up to you and admired you, and you're doing that to someone who's just starting. I don't think it's right." So we slammed the phone down on each other. And then it was years later. There's a picture of me somewhere in the foyer of my nice big sort of Corda Guru sort of factory, handing them over a cheque for I think it was 60,000 quid to start the World Feeder Championships or something.
Right.
Handing them this thing, we're shaking hands and smiling at each other.
Fantastic.
And somehow it didn't really matter.
Amazing. So years and years before, he's copying your stuff and there's a little ding-dong going on.
Yeah.
And X amount of years after, you're sponsoring a massive international event that they're associated with.
Yeah.
Awesome. Did it ever upset you? Did competition ever bother you, David?
That was the only time it ever bothered me. I thought that's not right.
Right.
But
interesting. What happened? What happened when you hit the £1 million mark? Where were you in terms of a business then? So what was your scale in terms of your factory, your output, where you were getting product from, and what happened?
I don't really know because my things don't join up in my mind properly along a timeline. So I can't tell you which units I was in and how many I got at that point when I reached that point because it wasn't really important to me. Because as soon as you get to that bit, you got another horizon. So I was just carried on, growing and growing and growing. So that's all that matters, the direction I'm going in. So I don't really know about where I was. What about how you felt when you knew you'd reached the goal, the big goal, the £1 million mark? Nothing.
I find that amazing. I find your mindset
I worked
amazing.
it all out and think, oh yeah.
Literally sat down at a desk, piece of paper.
Yeah, worked it out. I said, interesting.
We've done it. We've
What's
got
next?
£1 million.
Well, it's not even we've done it. It's just like, right, well, okay, just carry on.
Where are we going
as
next?
Normal.
Absolutely phenomenal. In terms of Preston Innovations and the company getting bigger, you've mentioned quite a lot of products already, colour-coded elastic and stuff. Which ones do stick out in your mind and why that you did?
None really.
No?
Not really. No, I can't remember half of them.
What about, say, I don't know, something I used for years, Powerline?
Oh yeah, Powerline was interesting. There's a point when, excuse me, there's a point when I worked out that actually I wasn't a manufacturing company. I was actually a design and marketing and distribution company. And it was a big point, that was, because as soon as I realised that freed me from a slower growth than it could be. Because if you've got to keep on tooling up and making things and employing more people and getting bigger premises, it all takes time. And it dawned on me that if I wasn't a manufacturer, then I could get other people to manufacture that. I could tie into their abilities and their cash flow and their understandings, and just concentrate on the other things, so I can just buy the stuff in. I can say to them, look, I need this, here's the design, can you make that, I'll pay you this much for it. And that took me to China in the end because they were just so much cheaper. But it was that point when I realised that the J curve, as I call it, where it just gets steeper and steeper, speed at which you are climbing, that's when it really, really took off.
Yeah, hit home. We can really grow.
Yeah.
And what would you say your success was in terms of how you took on people within the business? Because during these big stages of growth, you're taking on other people, and what you did, it was a success, absolutely undoubtable. How did you employ people and treat the staff during that period of success, what were your sort of mindset towards doing that, letting people work for you?
Well, this is another example of how an inability becomes a super ability, because I'm really bad at so many things, and that turned out to be a real advantage, because it meant that I could just say, I don't know, you do it your way, just don't bother with me with it, because there's no point asking me, because I'll just rubbish at it. So I'm good at certain things. I'm good at innovating. I'm good at the big business plan. I'm pretty good at marketing. I'm not good at managing things day to day. I couldn't organise a piss up in a brewery. It's just like, people don't believe this, but I'm absolutely disorganised. I mean, I'm a creative person. So by getting people in and then allowing them to do things that they find that they're good at and like doing, because that's what they'll always choose if you give them a chance. And so, I'm empowering them to do the best for themselves for what they do. And so it meant that there's the whole life of people out there, and they're all managing themselves. And it means they're not restricted by how often I can talk to them and guide them. I'm sure Danny's exactly like this.
It's really interesting hearing it, and I'm sure Toby will agree, but that is very much a Corda's kind of model is like that. You're sort of left to your own device. And what I find amazing is it's what you said at the very start of the podcast, that if you want to do something and you can be good at it, go and do that path, and you will be successful at it. And that's what you let people do within your business.
It's exactly like that here, isn't it?
Yes.
Everybody's own job is like their own business, if you like. Everybody's in charge of each aspect, and they can take it as far as they like.
And it's empowering, and everybody can just it's an organisation, it's an organism that can then grow according to all the abilities that are in there.
It's sort of a recipe to let the individuals within thrive, isn't it? It really is. It really is. There's a drink there if you want one.
No, that's all right.
Help yourself.
Unlike, I don't really know Danny. I'm hoping to meet him and get to know him a bit better. But I think he is probably quite good. It's totally by imagination, but I just guess he's actually quite good at managing people when he needs to. And he's had the wisdom and intelligence to step back from that, knowing this, so the business can grow. Whereas I didn't really have a choice, because I couldn't do it.
How did you? Obviously, it's so big. You must have had some influence, and it strikes me that you are stepped so far back from it all that you have got the massive picture in your mind all the time.
All the time, yeah.
But surely you had a front person to be the boss in inverted commas.
Well, another really, really good thing that happened was I took Ricky Teal on.
I know Ricky.
Now, Ricky has got some really, really good abilities, and one of them is managing people. He's good at other things as well, quite a few things. He could actually take over all that stuff. He was became the front man and the organizer, like your Damien is, I think. Is it Damien?
Yeah.
You know him, don't you, Toe?
Just a little bit, yeah. I see him every now and again. Sometimes for Sunday lunch.
So he fronted the whole thing for me. And our combination of abilities, because we used to have long conversations about marketing, because we're self-teaching ourselves at marketing, and so we were sort of talking about these things, and it just really, really worked well. And that, I mean, he brought a lot of new products in. I mean, he was the guy who he either invented or he found someone else who invented. I never really know, and it doesn't really matter. Things like Stotts, for example, and he'd run with new products as well, like Acorum chair and stuff like that. And I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was. It was. Ricky came up with the idea because he came up with the idea of Corum, really. And at that time, we weren't quite sure what Corum was, but we knew that there's loads and loads of commercial fisheries coming up, because it didn't always exist. There were all these commercial fisheries coming up, and the carp were in there and getting bigger. And suddenly, people were realising they could actually use carp fishing tackle in a way, like hair rigs, for example. They could start doing things in a bit of an adapted way. And he spotted all this, and we started making things for them, and that took off. Big start. We were the first in that. So, yeah, that worked really well with Ricky. So Ricky was the front man. Nobody even knew I existed, and I was very happy with that. They knew I existed more than I thought, though, as I mentioned earlier, when I was pretending to be incognito.
Yeah, walking about on the stand without your name tag on.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't, I always wanted to be not known, and he could be the face of the business, which he was.
How did, from a personal point of view, like where Guru's at the moment, obviously we're going into like rods and poles and that kind of thing. What was that journey like for Preston, going from, say, smaller items to bigger items like poles and stuff?
So that was I did that deliberately because I worked out that something that was holding us back from more growth, accelerated growth, if you like, was that when my agents went into the shops, they had, unbeknownst to them, a value in money printed on their foreheads. The shopkeeper would see the Preston Innovations agent, and they would see like 300 quid written on his head. Whereas when Daiwa went in, or somebody else who did expensive stuff, when they went in, the shopkeeper would see £3,000 on there.
That's really interesting, that.
And so as soon as I realised that, I thought, we've got to change that. And so I decided I was going to start selling something really expensive. So I went over to Italy and I decided to order some fishing poles. I thought that'll change things. And so I went over with Ricky, and Ricky's really good at working out how to design poles to have the right UK version of handling properties, different to the Italian ones. The Italians don't have much wind, so they can be more bendy. Bendy ones in our country, they break in the wind. It was that extreme at the time. So we designed these new poles, and I made sure they were really expensive, top range, best that you could make. So I think the top one sold for about 2,000 quid, which was an absolute fortune. I didn't expect to sell any of them at all. It wasn't the point. The reason for bringing those in was to actually change that tattooed number of pounds that the trader saw when the agent went in. And it worked. And we did actually sell. We broke even on these ridiculously expensive poles. And then the next year, we could actually come in with ones which were better price range, so that they would actually be accepted. And they think they're getting, oh my God, they got great brand image, fantastic poles, and now we've got these cheaper ones. Oh yeah. And so that worked.
Phenomenal.
And that brought us into rods, even reels eventually. And I think you asked me about Powerline. So Powerline was another marketing thing. I was going into my local fish and tackle shop, and I saw a point of sale thing on the bench at the front of the shop next to the till, and it was called Stroft.
I remember Stroft.
And
still a popular line, I think. People
really
still
popular.
use it.
It was really good. And I realised Stroft was made up of strong and soft. And I asked people about it, and it sold really well. And I looked into it more, and I realised that this was another example. Don't listen to the match anglers too carefully, because the match anglers were saying, oh no, the line has got to be precisely the right diameter that's stated on them. And I was thinking, no, the line has to not let anyone down, like hooks. If a hook lets you down, if line lets you down, that's the end of story for you forever on that hook, on that line, on that brand. So I thought, that's okay. So I'm going to do something. And I thought, oh, Powerline. I think, I don't know whether that was Ricky or me or both of us working together on that. And we worked out we call it Powerline. And that's still a good seller, I think.
So when you say you made it so it wouldn't let people down, what did you do so that it had them assets as a product?
Well, it's thicker than it should be.
Miles thicker.
I don't know how much thicker, but it's a bit thicker, but it's significant thicker. But if you get the right material and it's still soft, it still does the job, but it doesn't let you down.
And that is the key to that kind of product.
Yeah. It's like with Avid Carp, when I started Avid Carp, I said to John Shoes, you make these hooks, you've got to make sure they don't let the angler down, because particularly with carp fishing, when you might have waited for a week for a bite, the last thing you want is that hook lets you down. That would not just damage the hook sales, that would damage Avid's brand image totally. So you make sure that they're good and strong.
Very interesting. You know, in terms of the rods and poles, do you think there's any way you could do it the other way around and bring in cheaper stuff first and then build up? Or do you think that setting that benchmark with a flagship thing at the start of them big products is important?
Well, anything's possible. You just got to pick the way that you think's right at the time, I think.
And go for it.
Yeah. I mean, people have even done it in cars, haven't they, really? But, I mean, if Ferrari came out with a little tiny cheapy car for going around town, would it work? I don't know. They've got to make their own mind up on things like that.
Definitely. Talking about brand, you obviously, within Preston Innovations, other brand kind of things, you've mentioned Coram already, Avid, and Sonia Baits. Sonia Baits is one of the most popular match, certainly, baits out there now. See it everywhere, know loads of people that use it. Was that part of you and your time, Preston Innovations?
Yeah. I messed up on that one to start with.
Right. That's interesting. Tell me about that.
But it's just what I was saying earlier on. You know, you just get on with it. You're going somewhere with something, and if you mess up, oh well. What's next? And I came out with a product that should have been like brilliant, and it was brilliant. But there was a problem with it. Long life in packaging wasn't very good, and so it didn't work. But it did matter, but it didn't matter. It cost me £1 million actually.
That does matter a bit.
Yeah, I wasn't happy about
How
that.
chilled is he, Tobe, when he says that?
This is what we were
Well,
saying.
it does kind of matter. It cost me £1 million.
Well, I've got it was a product called Skins.
Yeah.
And it's I got a cap with Skins embroidered on it, a Skins cap, and I've still got one. And every time I tell anyone about it, when I'm wearing this, I say this cost me £1 million.
Wow. And what was the issue?
Well, it's another. It's trouble with doing. I don't know how to pronounce this. Innovative products is that there's always a risk. It doesn't matter how careful you are. There's always a risk of something coming up and biting you in the ass, and it did with this. So I made this effectively. It was a little sack of powder, and it was a latex skin on it that kept the sack of powder together. But it was. It allowed water in instantly, and all that powder would turn into a paste. But it was a bit like I was trying to make a synthetic maggot.
Got you.
So a maggot is basically, from a fish's point of view, is a skin, a little bag of nice, tasty juice. And so I did it. I made these dried powder things, and you put them on a hook, hooked perfectly, put it in water. Instantly, it's just all swelled up and became a nice, juicy thing that the fish would love. As soon as you bite it, all this taste would come out, explode in their mouths, and you get a fantastic bite, and it's brilliant. But the latex had this property which I didn't know about, and over a period of time in a bag, it would the latex would all decide that it wanted to be really friendly with the next bit of latex, and so everything joined together and glued up.
Right.
And I tested everything for months and months and months and months. But
and was that the first product you did under Sonia Baits?
Yes, it was, because it was. And then I decided, I don't think I'm going to go that direction anymore. I'm going to have to do something else. So I got rid of all the equipment, trashed everything, started again, and decided to do more Me Too style products. It's against my way of being. I don't like doing Me Too type products.
What do you mean by a Me Too product, David?
So you do a sack of feed pellets, 6mm feed pellets, or a bag of ground bait, things like that. So I'd always make them more thoughtful and work things out. But then to spice things up, I came up with S pallets.
I can remember selling them when I had a Saturday job in a shop.
They caught a lot of fish. They did.
Massive sellers
they
for us.
Probably still do. And everything likes them: barbel, carp, roach, everything. And but the whole point of that was to make make something that was more hookable, because everyone did the same thing. They got expander pallets and converted them into something you could hook, but it was always a battle to actually make them stay on the hook long enough.
Right.
So I made these. I've came up with a really interesting, simple way of making them so they stay on the hook better. And we sold loads and loads of those. And I can't remember what else I did, but I did some other really interesting products within the range that glued it all together and made the whole thing not too me too. And so first year after that, I made about 20,000 quid profit. And the next year, a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, until at the end I was making several 100,000 quid a year profit on it. And then I sold business, and of course you get, it all gets leveraged up. Then when you sell a business, you get paid for what it will make the new owners profit in the future, so you get more. So I actually made a profit on the whole thing despite losing £1 million.
Amazing.
To start with.
Just shows that same old mindset of,
it is exactly the same.
If it doesn't try, if it doesn't work, try again. If it doesn't work, learn, move, adapt, try again.
Yeah.
I find it amazing. Everything you're telling me and explaining all comes back to that core vision you have at the start.
It is. It's just creativity.
You hinted then about selling the business and stuff. It's obviously something I want to ask you about, and I'm sure listeners will be really interested.
You want to sell Guru?
Yeah, do you want to buy it?
No.
Let me have a word with Dan and Damo and Rooney. No, you selling Preston Innovations, you stepping back from it, because I don't know what it was turning over at the point when you left, but it was a giant, a monster. So much respect for it as a company. I've used loads of their products over the years, still use some now. Why did you make the decision to sell it and take a step back and get out of Preston Innovations?
Well, I wasn't really working very hard, because after that first few years, so by the time I was 34, 35, I got this incredible team that did everything. And it was only me needing to put a little bit of direction every now and again into big picture direction. Are we going to go into Europe now? Are we going to do carp fishing stuff? Yes or no? Do we need to concentrate on that? Do we need bigger premises or reduce some of the range? So it's just big stuff. And so I was probably only doing a couple of hours a week, if that. So I didn't really need to work anymore. And then I thought, well, there's still a bit of stress involved in making sure the people in a business were all working together. And so I just decided that I was going to sell it and look at what's next. I was still quite young. I think I was 54 or something like that. You can still do something with the rest of your life. So I thought, oh well, let's sell it, move on, work out what's next. So that's what I did. Was there any
emotion at that point when you went to sell it? Was it, obviously so long doing it?
I'll tell you the downside is because I didn't realise this until after. Because of all those things I gave you acronyms for at the beginning.
Yes.
What I didn't realise was that to protect myself from the world, what I had done is build a new world. I built that world around me. That was my world, and I was not threatened, because while I felt uncomfortable in many ways, not recognising poor Todd Humphries if he sat at the wrong desk, and all this sort of stuff, not know who I was saying hello to me in the street that might work for me in factory times, and all this, and it's really uncomfortable. I didn't know anything about what was going on, but I knew. I forgot what I was talking about now.
About selling the business, and you built the world. You built Preston. I just built this world around me that was safe. Very.
And when I'd sold it, I suddenly thought, "Oh, that's a bit strange. I've not got my little world to go to, where I feel safe, even though I wasn't in there much. It was still always there, my safe zone."
And what did you do when you'd sold it? Who did you sell it to, and what did you do immediately after?
Well, I sold it to a company called Bradley's, who own. It's privately owned by the Bradleys, and I think at the time they had about $60 billion worth of Coca-Cola shares alone.
Wow.
You know, the friends with the president and all the rest of it.
That's scary stuff.
I know.
That's really scary
That's a different
stuff.
level, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
fishing tackle's a tiny place.
Wow.
What were the conversations like going through that, David? Like, I mean, I can't imagine speaking to people like that on business terms.
You don't speak to you don't see those. You don't see the Bradleys. You speak to people who are handling whatever.
Got you.
So it's not like that at all.
Right, so you don't know the Bradleys as
No.
such. Oh, right.
No, not personal friends of mine.
Not having a barbecue next Saturday.
No.
So what happened when that had gone through and you stepped away from this world and all of a sudden it's not around you? How did that make you feel and how did you handle that?
Well, I don't know. You just get on with things, don't you? But I remember it was definitely a bit weird and uncomfortable. And then I was never going to start another business. I mean, why would I want to do that? Well, the stress of starting something up. But I got this idea that kept coming back and bugging me because basically my life is about innovating things and creating things. So I did a load more painting because I like painting paintings.
Right.
I did a
What,
load
like
more.
art as in painting pictures?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
No,
You've got to tell me about your painting.
no, I've got one. I've got something for you later.
Oh, that's interesting.
So anyway, so that's creativity, and then but this thing kept coming back to me, this idea for in fishing, and it was just too good not to do it. And but I didn't want to start another business and do all that employing people thing and all the rest of it. And then I convinced myself that it would be actually quite easy because now I've got money. I'm not starting from nothing, and I got all the experience. I know what to do this time that wouldn't involve all the hardship. So I worked out I could actually provide the idea, provide the processing knowledge, you know, how to make stuff and the machinery and everything, provide the money and get someone to contract make. So I'd pay him for each bag, if you like, of product.
Okay.
So that I wouldn't have to get involved in all that employing people and managing people and everything else. I was going to do this really cleverly. It didn't quite work out like that. So I'm working really, really hard now.
So what you're talking about is you stepped away from Preston and you started something else.
Yeah.
And
After and I lasted about I don't know 4 or 5 years before I did it. But
That's the creative in you, though, that isn't it? That's the
you got to do what you got to do.
right.
I like inventing things. I like creating things.
Before we talk about what you're doing now, and people listening probably will know what it is, but I need you to type into YouTube, Tobe.
Okay.
This is a bit weird. I can't believe I'm saying this while David Preston
No, I'm just wondering what's happening here.
Go on
Me
YouTube,
too, David, don't
type
worry.
in Fjuka, spell Fjuka, spanking advert.
Oh dear.
I tried looking for this earlier, but
This is on YouTube, right? And play it and watch this on the main screen because this is. I just think
Alright.
I think it's fantastic, and
I've just seen the thumbnail. The thumbnail alone is brilliant.
I think it's a good way to get us into what I'm going to talk to David about next because it's one of the
So
best.
on this recording, can we hear the conversation with Toby?
Yeah. Have you only just realised that?
Well, I know I suspected it, but I just was just checking.
Yeah.
I thought it might be edited.
No,
You
no.
can't hear him, and it's going to be edited
It's
out.
just dead informal and so it should appear on screen surely. But I just want, if you are listening to this like in your car, folks, or whatever, treat yourself. When you get back, watch this little section on your phone, on your telly, on your laptop, whatever it is, because this is one of the best bits of marketing I have seen in recent years, and it comes from what we're going to talk about next. Go on,
Shall we
Toe.
have a look?
Hit play.
Oh. Have we got any sound?
Oh yeah.
Just this bait, please. Can I hook those?
Yeah, but you're going to need a bait drill. Oh, and bander. Hair stops. Line. And some of those. Okay, that's £52.60, please.
It's a bit steep, isn't it?
Well, spend over 50 quid, you do get a free gift.
Terry?
This is my favourite bit.
It would be.
Somebody getting a spanking.
Not so fast.
Fjuka 2-in-1 is the world's first hookable feed pellet, which means you don't need any of this. And it's only $1.99. Don't get spanked. Join the Fjuka revolution today.
Watch this bit, Tove.
Fish on! Yes, go on, Matt.
How good is that? How good is it?
That's brilliant.
Join the revolution.
So, Fjuka, this is the new project.
What an introduction.
It's great, isn't it? Don't get spanked, join the Fjuka revolution.
Funny enough, I didn't think people abroad would understand this being spanked, meaning that you're getting ripped off. I still don't know whether they do or not, but they like it. There's like millions of people have watched it now.
Join the Frankie does it all the time. You know, the guy who I work with, the other marketing guy in Guru, he's always going, Fjuka revolution. He loves it. And he's always, doesn't it? Join the revolution. Whenever he sees Tom's van, because obviously Tom's got the Fjuka van, he runs up to the window and he's like, Fjuka revolution.
I've got all these people abroad in different countries, and they've got these little videos, and whenever they catch anything, they go, Fjuka! But they do it in weird accents, Korean accents and Italian accents and all sorts.
Amazing. I've got to ask you, where did the name come from?
Oh.
Where did Fjuka come from?
It's my awful wife. She's very brilliant at marketing.
Mm.
But I think she had me over on this one. She decided, because I told her that people like... They like to think something comes from abroad. So the best pole floats come from Italy.
Okay.
That sort of thing. Even though we know Guru make their own. So I said, well, look, we've got to let it be known as the idea comes from Japan. It sounds more exotic then. And so she got J for Japan in there, and I can't remember. It's F for fishing. And I can't remember the rest that she came up with. But basically, she just saw the future of me having to answer the phone and saying, Fjuka Bait. And then saying, pardon? She stitched me up.
Tell me what Fjuka is. I know. I've used it. Tom showed it me. I've seen lots of it. I see quite a bit of it on the bank now, to be honest, as well. What is it? It's obviously a bait. And... looking at the old spanking advert, the world's first hookable feed pellet. Where does that inspiration come from, and what is the bait? What's the unique thing about it?
I wanted to make something like it said on a spank ad. That was a hook bait and a feed, like maggots. I mean, there's a classic, isn't it? You put one on a hook, throw some out to attract the fish. I wanted a synthetic version of that because there's downside to maggots, as I'm sure you're aware. So I wanted a synthetic version of that, and there's so that's where I set out to be. It's not quite as simple as you think, and for people to actually chuck it in, it's got to be cheap enough as well. So there are other things you could throw in. I mean, you could buy things that you can put on the hook and chuck them in the water. But they're a bit expensive to really do it. £5 a shot for a pot or something. You just wouldn't do that. So price, the economics of it is really relevant. So I wanted something that you could just put on the hook and throw some in to attract a fish. It would stay on the hook nicely. It's cheap enough to be able to throw in, and you could put on the shopkeeper could put it on the shelf, and the angler could put it in the bag and not worry about it going off, and it'll still be there next year in the bag, ready to go fishing, so that people can go fishing more easily. It's easier to go fishing. So that's what it is. It's just a bait that does those things.
Like it. It's got a really unique smell to it, Fjuka. I always, whenever Tom opens a bag and I've sniffed it and smelled it, it's got a real unique smell to it. What's that all about, David?
Well, the smell, I've called it a name. I've called it sensate. So, because the first thing, if you see an angler in a shop and he picks up a new bait, first thing he does is smell it.
I'm guilty of it myself.
Yeah, every single time. Almost before you even look at it. So take the top off or smell the bag. I mean, hang on, there was a very big ground bait manufacturer, Van der Nijnd, I think it was. They used to put 3 micro holes in the top of the bag because they knew anglers would pick it up, and as he picked it up, it would squeeze it because you just had to pick it up, and the smell would come out and they'd smell it.
I've done that so many times.
It's the smell. But I didn't want to do that. I want to simplify things. I want things to work really well, and I want them to catch fish. That is the measure. It's got to catch fish. So this unique stinky smell, or whatever you want to call it, a sensate, is something that works to catch fish. And it also means that there's no disadvantage to the shops for stocking stuff, and for the angler for buying stuff and spending more money than he wants to. Because if you've got a bait that has got, you can have it in 5 different flavours, and that combined with 3 different sizes and 5 different colours, that's a hell of a lot of pots you've got to buy and keep. But if you limit that down to one flavour, if you like, it's not really a flavour, it's an attractor, then that just simplifies that. Yeah, it just divides it by 5, the number of things you've got to carry around with you. And the idea of the bait is that you can actually have one size. I mean, I've done more than this because people are people and they want different sizes, but the idea was to have one size, and you can just rub those together to make a bigger bait.
Yeah, mould it and shape it.
Or make a littler bait. So there's just one size as well, but that hasn't really worked out like that, because people just want automatically to have a bigger one or a smaller one. Smaller one in winter, a bigger one in summer. So I provide what people want. Again, it's that change in direction according to what people want.
Which is interesting. I was just going to say the same. And like the removing the process that you've done with Fjuka, as in you can hook it, you can feed it, you can mould it. You don't need loads of stuff to go with it, relating back to the spanking advert. I can't help but think back to the sugar beet factory and how you removed all them processes to save that money and simplify it. And you can almost relate that to what you've done with Fjuka as well.
Yeah, I like things being simple. I don't like things being complex.
And how's the journey been so far? How have you found it? Has it been successful? Are you happy with how it's going?
Well, so for the first year, all we sold was one size of Fjuka, 5mm classic Fjuka bait.
Is that the 2-in-1 stuff?
Yeah, 2-in-1. Just one size. I think we did 4 colours, and that was it. And because it's successful, and because there's hardly any varieties, I bet you we sold more of any one of those than anyone else sold of any bait, other than maybe maggots. I mean, we sold, I don't know what it was, hundreds of thousands of bags just in this country, and we've only just started going.
Brilliant start.
All those things I was telling you about, how we changed the business plan about 4 or 5 times, that's all within a space of 2 years.
And what other changes have you gone through in such a short space of time?
Well, it's those things. First of all, Amazon.
Yeah.
Then online shop of ours. Then selling to the shops, the retailers, and then selling through a middleman, Cop Doc, as a distributor. So those are all different things.
And what about, I'm right in thinking, David, that there's just been a bit of a product launch with Fjuka of these new bits, carpos and stuff like that. And I also saw something, and I seen you catch a carp off the surface using something called lure bait.
Oh yeah.
What's that all about? That's totally different again, but it's still under the Fjuka banner.
We sell some gear to European distributors, and one of them said, "Oh, we're selling loads of your neons, hook bait, which is fluorescent soft bait, to trout anglers." Because they couldn't get the stuff out of Berkeley, something to do with new laws and things, I don't know. But whatever it was, the shopkeepers and therefore the anglers couldn't get a hold of Berkeley powerbait paste, something like that. So it turned out that we were selling loads and loads of these neons because that does the same job, or slightly better, in my opinion. So then they said to us, well, can't you do one with sparkly bits in? Can you do glitter in? So, okay, we're back to right from how I started Preston Innovations. I listen to what people want. I work out how to give them what they want and solve the problem. So I looked into it and I found out there was a what was the word?
Biodegradable
glitter. So that's fine. And I made a floating version of the neons and made it a bit tougher, and worked out that if I made it in have certain physical properties, you could actually use it like a lure. So basically, you can roll it or whatever and make it into this like a fish shape, if you like, or a worm shape, or anything else shape, and then hook it, and so most of the hook is showing, and then cast it out and then wind it in like a lure. So it's a bait and a lure. So let's call it lure bait.
And how's that gone down?
It's very early days. We've just sent the load over to this distributor, and we'd only just made it available. So we'll see how it actually sells, but it certainly catches because Tom and I went up to a trout fishery and got special permission to use a bait on there rather than just flies. And we tried this bait in using it as a lure, so casting, retrieving, caught loads of trout straight away. Using it on drop shotting, because it's a popular way of catching small fish. Caught loads of fish on that. Then we just used it as a pop-up. I don't know what they call it in trout fishing, but anyway, it's stationary and it's popped up off the bottom. Caught loads of fish on that, and then we use it on the surface, and it was just like phenomenal. But while we were doing it, in the midst of winter, and it was really, really cold, we kept catching all these carp, which we didn't even know were in this trout lake as well. They were coming up to the surface and having it.
Crazy.
So it's definite. Fish really like it. I mean, if you think about it, if it's a lure and it tastes nice, that's got to be better than a lure or a bait that's stationary and doesn't do anything. Yeah, the combination has got to be better.
And it's still got the smell and texture.
Oh yeah, it's got the same sensate in it. Yeah.
So there's more to it than just a lure.
Yeah.
Very
and
cool.
you can use it to catch anything. When I use it, when I go commercial carp fishing, popped up, or just to make the hook weightless, if you like, because you can just rip bits off and use however much you want to get the right descent rate, if that's the right word.
Yeah. Bits of one Fjuka, bits of another, and you could almost get yourself a little pop-up or a little snowman-y sort of rig going.
Yeah, exactly.
Mega. What's I've got to ask you before we finish talking about Fjuka, and I still think it's quite early days knowing your big picture mindset, but what I want to ask you here is, and I'd like to have you back on the podcast to review this because I'm sure it'll be amazing. What's the target with Fjuka? What is your vision with Fjuka?
Well, it's changed. It was originally just to do the one size 2-in-1 Fjuka bait and sell it all over the world. But I've sort of gone with the flow for this country and Europe in making all these different baits, and so everything changes as I go along. So it's going to end up, I personally think, and I hope I don't have to eat my words in a few years' time, I think it's going to be bigger than Preston Innovations, because I think the market is bigger. Preston Innovations match gear, you're not going to sell a lot in America or Brazil or Sweden or wherever. But a bait that catches everything, that's easy to use, that's got a world. That's got a world possibility. So it's got every possibility of being bigger than Preston Innovations, and I was quite pleased with how big that was getting.
I bet you were. What an amazing story you've had about it as well. And from a personal point of view, I look at Fjuka and I think it's got a lovely persona for usability for anyone to use, and I think it will broaden our industry and bring in new people. People can get it off Amazon, they can get it direct from you. Who knows if we'll be selling it in supermarkets in the future? I don't know, but it strikes me that...
Well, we've got a bit of interest.
There you go. But it strikes me as someone who's getting into fishing, who might normally pick up a tin of sweet corn, that's quite limiting in terms of species you can catch, and you've got to crack a tin open, and once you've cracked a tin open, you've got to throw it. You've got to throw it away. And you're not going to catch every species of fish on that anyway. Whereas Fjuka's got that lovely thing to it that you pick up that bag and it's there, it's ready for you to use. It's designed to catch fish, and it's got that younger generation family orientation.
Yeah, it's one of the most important things for me.
Yes.
It's like Danny's doing embryo. I'm working with Angling Trust and Canals and River Trust to actually, and the coaches, to bring in more people fishing, and to do that you've got to make it really easy and simplify everything. So it's always been my aim to simplify it. So in this case, just put things on the hook. I mean, it's quite ironic really, because I spent my life making things more and more effective but more and more complicated at the same time. You know, with Preston Innovations, you know, banding rigs and bayonet rigs and ready tied hair rigs and everything else. You know, I'm responsible for a lot of that, and it's very effective, but it also makes things more complicated and difficult for people to get into the sport in the first place. So I really, really want to make it easier to go fishing.
I like it, and it fits perfect. I can tell you it does fit perfect. On to something else that I spoke about when we had a little chat before the podcast, and I really like these stories that you told me. I want to finish on a little bit of your own fishing, because I know when I speak to you how much you actually love it. You still do a lot now. You told us about what you've been up to at the start of the podcast. But carp fishing, you said, is what you did and what you I remember first met you again, I'll repeat it. You said, I'm a carp angler, Matt. I was a carp angler. Tell me about your key captures or key moments when you were doing your carp fishing quite seriously.
I can tell you about Ashmead.
Yeah.
I think a lot of carp anglers know about Ashmead. For those who aren't carp anglers, it's one of those syndicate lakes that it's changed now, but it was a syndicate, very difficult to get in. But a friend of mine owned it and ran it, and it got two really good big carp, English carp. One single scale and one's moon scale, and I think the one hovered at around 54 pounds ish, and one hovered around about 44 pounds ish. And I like catching fish. I like catching carp. I'd go down there, but quite often I was too busy, so I went down. I only managed to go down 2 times this one year. I'm blowing my own trumpet, which is not normal for me, but I'm going to do it.
This is your chance to do it on the podcast. Go for it, David.
So I was really, really lucky. I did a lot of things right, but I was really lucky as well. I only went down twice, 2 one-night sessions in the whole of the year. And the first session I did, I'd worked out what I thought might work to catch carp.
Can you tell us what it is? Or what it was?
I'll tell you afterwards.
Right, okay.
And the first night, I caught a moon scale about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I don't ever take photographs. I hardly ever take photographs of fish I catch, because as soon as I've landed them and looked at them and unhooked them, then I'm happy. Then I don't, I'm a bit weird. I don't need to photograph them or even weigh them sometimes. I'm just really happy. But I knew I'd get in trouble with the owner, Mark Walsingham, if I didn't actually take a photograph. So I did a selfie photograph and weighed it, and put it back 3 o'clock in the morning. Didn't tell anyone else, which is another no-no. Didn't tell anyone else on the fishery, and went home because I caught a nice fish. Got in trouble for that with them. And then the next week, I went down again for my second and only session, another one-nighter. And I did the same thing in a different spot. And cause I saw some the bottom being churned up, and I did the same thing. And it wasn't until 7 o'clock in the morning I got a run. I was just about to go home. And I got a run, and it turned out to be the biggest fish. It was a single scale, 54 pounds.
Is that the fish we can see on screen there?
I think it is, yeah.
Wow.
And the only reason it's a half-decent photograph is because someone happened to be wandering by at the time, and he insisted that I did a photograph. Otherwise, I would have been in trouble again. So I did a photograph and put that back. So they're the only 2 times I fished the whole year there. And the first time I caught the second biggest fish, and the second time I caught the biggest fish, and that was it. So the only 2 fish I caught, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Obviously, a hell of a lot of luck involved in that, but it's still good. It's a record that's never going to be beaten. There's all those better anglers, much better carp anglers than me, that haven't caught them like that.
And tell me how you did it. The fisherman in me wants to know tactics. You must have had something. I know you've got your own quirky ways with fishing. So tell me how you caught them 2 fish.
Oh, right, okay. So I worked out, one of the things I worked out, I like rigs, and I worked out that how a fish ejects a bait is it gets pricked and it thinks to itself in its own little way, I've got to get rid of this. The only way it can get rid of it, ultimately, is to suck it free, suck it further in so it can blow it out. And I thought, well, if I only have a very, very slender, small bait, but one that makes the hook weightless, then it'd be able to suck it in. But if there's a bit of pressure there holding that hook in place, it's not got enough force by sucking in, because the thing's small and streamlined, the bait's small and streamlined, it won't be able to suck it free. So I made a really short rig that did that with a little piece of wood.
Right.
The wood was about 15 mil long and probably about 4 mil diameter. And I'd soaked it just to keep myself happy. I'd soaked it in some nice smelly stuff. And I don't think it really matters though, because they're just there feeding, sucking up stuff, and they just sucked it in. And once they were hooked, they were done for, really.
So you caught the 2 biggest fish in the lake on a piece of wood.
But basically, if you do something different, you stand a chance of catching the wariest fish, because if all the fish see is a certain rig, this happens in carp fishing syndicates. There's a favourite rig, and it becomes like a fashion. Same with bait, and then the fish work their way around it. They get caught, and then they work out that that's not what they're going to get involved with again, or to be very careful in a certain way that makes it so they don't get caught, because they'll take the risk of eating what you give them, but they have to be really careful. They think they're going to get away with it all the time. They're very optimistic fish, I think. And every now and again they get caught. But if you're doing the same as everyone else, then you're tying one hand behind your back, really. So just by doing something different, you can start catching those fish that are rarely caught again.
And when you say you got a bit of wood and you soaked it in some stuff so it smelled, I'm assuming you had some sort of bait around it and thought about where you positioned the rig and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So first of all, you have to find where the fish are, and that's location with carp fishing. I mean, match anglers can't do that. They're given a place to fish, but specimen anglers, they have to go and find the fish. That's the best way of doing it. And the bait I'd chosen was I fermented cut maize until it really stank. So what's horrible to us is nice of the fish if it's healthy, and it is. And I basically spread some of that over very, very sparsely over a large area, making it more and more concentrated, where I was going to put my bait on the hook. So it advertised the fact that this is there, made it so it's worthwhile for the fish to go to the biggest concentration, and then that's where it was. So they would come along and they'd start feeding in a certain way where they're hardly moving at all, because they're sucking up the what's there, the particle bait that is this, and then munching on it, hardly moving a couple of inches, getting another bit. So I made a very, very short rig, about 2 inches long, and a bomb that was a weight that was enough to hold the hook in place, bearing in mind they couldn't really suck too hard. You can suck as hard as they want, but it would have very little effect on this really slender little bait. And what can I say? It worked.
You can't get a better record. 2 nights, 2 one nights fishing.
There's a hell of a lot of luck in there. I maximised my odds and I had a lot of luck, and that's like a bit unrepeatable, really.
And that's phenomenal. It's brilliant. I'd love to go and have a day's carp fishing or a night's carp fishing. I've never seen a 40-pounder in real life,
Yeah.
Phenomenal. And what about your own fishing now, David? Where's it going? What have you got? Have you got any plans? Are you going to do any more carp fishing?
Well, I always like sort of solving problems. That's what I do. That's what anglers always do. It's just match fishing has got a different set. Match fishing is more about procedure and process, about where they're going to fish, when, for how long, with what. Where specimen anglers and carp anglers are more about the rig and maybe and techniques as well, baiting stuff and things like that. Well, I like to be doing something I've got to solve. All anglers like to do. I'm very much more so than most people, I think. I've got to be inventing, if you like. So I'm always looking for easier or more effective ways of doing things. So I think what I'm really interested in now is catching those bigger carp at commercial fisheries. Because some of these commercial fisheries have been around so long that they've got big fish in them, and they're hardly ever caught because everyone's fishing match fishing styles, really, which is I know what big carp are like. They will spot what's happening in normal fishing on that particular venue, match fishing style or pleasure fishing style. And they will, if they had hackles, their hackles would go up, and they think, oh, it's a bit dodgy. I'll wait till nightfall and everyone's gone home, or whatever it is. But they won't go near a load of bait of a certain sort and a certain distribution on the bottom, and a certain feeding rate and a certain amount of commotion, and they just know, so they'll stay away more often than not. So what I want to do is find ways to catch the bigger carp where they exist in commercial fisheries, and then tell everyone about it. All Fjuka anglers tell them about it, so they can go and have a better chance of catching the bigger fish if they want to.
That's really cool, and you're 100% right.
There is a lot of fishes. Yeah.
Loads of them. Like we spoke about Larford Lakes earlier, and
Yeah.
that kind of commercial fishery. So many big fish,
Yeah.
and we notice it in matches because, like you say, every now and again, the very end of the match, one slips up.
Yeah.
You never catch a 20-pounder beginning at match, middle at day. It's always very late on when maybe they suspect you might be packing up, gone home.
Yeah.
So right, I'd be interested to see how it goes. And that's what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, it fills me with excitement. I'm really excited about doing it.
I've heard we've got to catch you a river barbel as well this year.
I've got to catch a double figure barbel because weirdly I've never caught one. I've fished the River Severn above Shrewsbury, and there are double figure fish in there. There might even be more now, but when I fished it about 15 years ago, quite a bit, it was I used to catch a lot of barbel, but never caught a big one. And now there's some great places for barbel fishing. There's the Trent, there's the Wye, there's further down the River Severn, and it's a big barbel. So I think, and I've been spending a bit of time with Tom and Brad.
Brad Hancock.
Yeah.
He just took him out. He's just started coming, he's just come to Fjuka, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Brad,
he has,
he's a sponsored lad. Yeah.
He's
lovely
He's
kid.
a really good angler as well because he's match fishing trained, and then he's crossed over to specimen angling, and he's got the both together. That's a good recipe for success, and he does really well. He's caught a record barbel for the Don, is it?
Yeah.
And he goes on the Trent, and he catches big things, like 15-pound plus. And he does use a combination of match and specimen style fishing. Use a lot of maggots, for example. Having said that, when I got him to got two rods, one with Fjuka on, Carpo, drilled fluorescent boilie pellets, and one with maggots. On the one day anyway, he caught something like 3-1 on the Fjuka bait. So that got him thinking.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
I know he's used them fat boys as well a few times on the river. He was telling me about them other day at Lindome. Yeah.
Well, I made them some specials. I don't know what I'm going to call them because I'll get in trouble with the PC people, PC police.
Yeah.
They're even bigger. They're like 15 mil, and I don't know whether I can't call them obese boys because that's going to step
Fat
too
boys.
far, isn't it?
What about fat girls? You've got fat boys. Couldn't you call them fat girls?
Oh no.
Queen did a song, Fat Bottom Girls. Surely we could do that.
That was a long time ago.
Fat boys and fat girls. Fat girls.
Chubbies.
Yeah, chubbies.
Chubbies.
Have you got a chubby on?
Chubby banger.
No, I think this is going to get edited out.
We'll have to have, on a serious note, we all ought to have a bit of a day's barbel. Like, we go to the Trent a lot, barbel, and it'd be nice to have,
I'm
nice
really
to have a
looking
day.
forward to it. Really looking
We
forward
should
to
do
it.
it. You could come, Tobe. Like,
I'm still waiting for you to take me fishing.
we could have
again.
like a Fjuka, Guru, Cordery barbel fishing
definitely.
trip.
I tell you what, I've learned so much from being reunited with Tommy Pickering because I used to employ him, as you know, for Preston Innovations, and now he's with us. And Tom Scoley and Brad and other anglers have been around, the match anglers. I thought I'd learned a lot from my years with Preston Innovations, but I've learned so much more. I'll never make a match angler, but I reckon if I crack one place like Larford Lakes, which is loads of big fish in, so it's more exciting. If I crack one place like that and then challenge Tom to a match, I reckon I might beat him.
Do it. You've got to do it. That'd be a brilliant idea.
You
You've
just
got
want me to
film it
beat
all.
him?
You've got to film it all. Yeah. Do that. I'm going to wrap this up, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And I think it's not just been a pleasure, David. It's been quite. I feel like I've been on a bit of a journey, listening to your stories, talking to you. I'm lucky enough I come and had a day with you, and we sort of talked about what we were going to discuss. But everything you've talked about, and you described them as your disorders and what have you. And for me, that is the most heartfelt, deep, meaningful part of the podcast. And if people can take anything away from it, I think it's the fact that you expressed that you had that at a young age and how it affected you at a young age. And then you've just divulged in this success story. And that combination and that ability to have all that, but then follow that journey and sharing your mindset of how you did it, for me personally, and I'm sure for Toby and the listeners, I just feel motivated. I feel energized by it. I feel like I could take on the world having listened to it. and I'm sure that others do as well. So I just want to say, dead personally, thank you very much for opening up and talking about all that. It's much appreciated.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it, because as I said, I don't do this. I don't do this sort of thing, and it's been a really enjoyable process. Actually,
Brilliant.
I'm very surprised.
Oh, good.
That's what we like to hear, isn't it?
Have you enjoyed it, Tobe?
Yeah, no, I can't top what you just said, but I found it really just inspiring.
Mm.
Your entire story, your mindset, your outlook is just, I'd like to think I'd like to think everyone watching can take a little bit of something from this and apply it to whatever they do in their own life, because it's hard not to listen to David talk, isn't it, and just think, wow, like I can do anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I almost want to go off and do it. Like I feel like I'm ready to go.
I absolutely, totally believe we can all do more than we have. I mean, I must have cramped my own style a lot, but I know that I could have done more, and I can do more, and I know everybody can do more. And it's just nice to think about that. I like thinking about it, and I like if I can affect anyone for the better in helping them achieve more that they want to achieve in their life, then that makes me really happy.
Brilliant. Before I've got a few quickfire questions to end on that I ask everybody. But
I gotta refresh my memory then, because he's given me the questions beforehand. So
you're not supposed to tell anyone that, David. But because you told me you'd got prosopagnosia, dyslexia, APD, adnomania, I thought I better give him the questions before.
So we'll cut now, and then we'll come straight back in.
Here I am. I'm not reading anything.
Just a big fat thank you for coming on, David. And what I was going to say is, you're not having this as your first and last podcast. I've got a feeling
Absolutely
that
not.
You want to come back. The Corda one's gonna be back rock and rolling again.
Well, that's going to be interesting, because I am a carp angler, as I've said.
And I'd love for Dan to meet you, Danny Fairbrass from Corda, because I think you've both. I listened to Dan's stuff, and
I'd like to meet him. Never spoken to him because of the way I am. I've never spoken to him. I've never spoken to Peter Drennan. I've never spoken to Cliff Fox. So
yeah. Well, a sneak peek to anybody listening. I am already in the middle of trying to get an episode with Danny and yourself.
It'd be amazing.
fantastic.
It'd be amazing. Yeah.
I look forward to it.
So you coming back? You're not. This is not going to be the first. It's going to be the first. Not going to be the last. Is what I'm going to say. Right. Quick fire questions. I ask these to everyone who comes on the podcast. Get a right mix of characters and people on here. So it'd be interesting to hear your answers. So, not divulging too deeply, if there was an item in your fishing kit, David, you couldn't live without, what would it be?
Well, I'm always tempted, because of the way I am, to say something like a hook or a line, because that is literally, you couldn't do without it, could you?
No.
But trying to be sensible, I'd say a hook sharpener. That has caught me more fish. That it's just like, even tiny match hooks, if you look at them quite often, depends on whose they are, but if you look at them quite often with a magnifying glass, you find out that actually they've got the tip is just bent over or something, and they haven't got that really stickiness to them that converts more of the bites into actual fish on the bank.
Interesting. We've not had that one before. Hook sharpener.
Have you really?
No, we've not had that one before.
Great answer.
Really good answer.
But, well, Brad Hancock.
Yeah.
He made my day when I was fishing with him on the Trent, and he showed me this electric one with a little spinny wheel, and I thought, that ain't gonna work. And I tried it, and I thought, I spent hours changing the shape of the point, lengthening it, so making it thinner for longer, because it's not just about being sharp, it's about penetration.
Yeah.
So if it's thin for longer, then you hook better.
Interesting. Like it. Great answer. If there was one venue you had to fish for the rest of your life, where would it be?
France.
Any particular venue in France?
No, all of France.
That's a good answer. That's broad.
Well, I'd get bored, wouldn't I? If I got one place, I'd get bored after a bit.
Why France?
I could have said England, but it wouldn't work quite so well. So I said France. Lots of fish. I mean, I could have said, I nearly said the North Atlantic, because then there's really a lot of variety there, isn't there?
That's true,
Fishing. That'll keep you going for a few thousand lives.
You should have just said the world.
Brilliant. Well outside the box, claimed an entire country.
Yeah.
That's my venue.
Just
That's
France.
my venue.
Who is the best angler that you've ever fished with, David?
Oh, it's really hard because the best angler I ever came across was someone I met really early on. It was called Fitz. It's Mark Fitzpatrick. Absolutely brilliant. And he actually was he tore Fenimore apart. So older carp anglers will know Fenimore. It got 2 30-pounders, which in those days were like, 2 50-pound plus fish in it, and he caught both of them, and they're so brilliant. But I can't give it to him. I got a friend called Phil Floater, call him, because I put him in charge of my float factory once upon a time. His real name's Phil Jones, and he's brilliant. He just keeps catching. However, the actual award has got to go to Ellis Brazier. I don't know whether you ever heard of him. He used to do, I think it's like 48-hour challenge or something for one of the magazines. And him and his friend Bog do this monthly magazine 48-hour thing where they would go somewhere they were directed and catch carp out of it. And it always did really well. The reason why it's him is because he's a very, very good angler, but he's very, very good at all sorts of angling. He's brilliant at sea fishing, brilliant at tuna fishing, and skate fishing. He's great at lure fishing. He's great at salmon fishing, at sea trout fishing. He's great at coarse fishing, great at roach fishing and tench fishing. Brilliant at carp fishing, and he somehow manages to get into the behaviour of fish and animals in general, and he's just so. It's just I've never come across anyone like him.
He's Ellis Brazier.
Yeah.
Maybe we could look at getting him in on a podcast. Would it be a good one?
He's a great talker.
Yeah.
The stories he tells is just one of those people that are really riveting.
Right. I have heard the name. I don't know him at all, but that's really interesting. I'd love to meet him.
He's employed. Well, he's employed by Coram.
Right. Okay.
Not to be confused with Corda.
No.
Coram.
All right.
One of my old businesses.
Yeah. Brilliant. Ellis Brazier.
Yeah.
Write that one down, Tobe.
It's already down.
We'll have a look at that. If there's one thing you could change about fishing, David, what would it be?
Can I look at my notes?
Of course you can.
I can't remember what I said.
No, of course you can.
Because I found a problem with this, trying to understand it in the first place. Oh, yes.
Lots of people interpret this one different. We always get a few weird and quirky answers to this one.
So, if there's one thing I could change in fishing, it would be to ban the night.
What, as in night fishing?
No, just the night. Get rid of the night. So it's 24-hour day sunshine.
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice.
Or daylight weather. Daylight. Because I love catching carp, but I always feel cheated if I catch them at night, because I want to see everything happening. I want to see the swirls and the taut line and where it's going, and the whatever it gets caught on underneath and then coming free. And I want to see that. I always feel cheated if I catch them at night, because it's achieved the purpose of catching the fish. Great. But where's the other experience? So it's like night fishing for me is just something you do to catch the fish, whereas daytime fishing is for the enjoyment of the whole process.
What a fantastic answer. That's a great one. That's a great one. I'm sure lots of people will agree with you on that one. Some probably won't as well, because they like night fishing.
There's certain things about fishing at night. There's nice solitude and quietness and different noises. But that's for me. That's what I would do.
I like it. And the final question, if you had to give someone who's never been fishing before some advice or inspiration to go and try fishing, what would you say to them?
Well, what would work with most people would be to give them a rod and bait and a priest. Starve them for a week firsthand, so they're really hungry. So they're definitely inspired, and they definitely have the focus to catch fish. Give them the tackle, and give them a priest to knock it on the head so they can eat it.
So you take it back to caveman style.
Yeah.
You've got to eat what you catch.
Yeah.
I like it. Let's do it.
I don't think I'll be very popular for that one.
Stop. You want to try fishing, young'un? Yeah. Please, Dad. Right. Get in that cupboard. You're not going to eat for a week. Yeah.
And then
Definitely.
then catch single scale.
Yeah.
Knock it on the head.
That's different. I like it. And finally, did you bring a gift that you're willing to leave with us for the podcast? I'm excited about this.
I did.
Have you got it with you?
Well, you know what? You know I paint paintings.
I tried to talk to you about this, but you sort of said, I'll tell you later, so I'm assuming I'm going to hear a little bit about it.
You've seen some of my paintings, haven't you?
I have.
They're a bit odd, but it's just pure creativity. So I've painted, the weekend I painted a painting for you.
Wow.
Stop it.
That's phenomenal.
You haven't seen it yet.
We didn't expect
Shall I show
that.
you?
I'd love to see it. Yes, please. You've done this just for the podcast, just for this?
Yeah.
Wow. Flipping heck, David.
It's a self-portrait of me.
Right. I like it.
And it's actually a brain maze.
Right.
So you have to find your way out,
Mm.
like a puzzle. And if you find your way out, you understand how it all works and find a way out. You too can be highly successful at whatever you set out to be successful at.
So we've got to try and figure out how to get out of David Preston's brain maze.
Yeah, could be tricky.
How long is it going
You
to take?
might get lost in there forever.
Right, Tobe, we're going to have a go at that. Have you seen that, by the way?
Mate, that is
Can you
so
see it on
cool.
camera?
Yeah.
That is phenomenal. We've had all sorts of gifts, but no one's ever painted us a painting ever before.
It's you don't have to like it.
No. I love it. I love it.
Tell you what,
Tobe, that's got to go up.
Yes,
that's got to go up
absolutely.
there.
Well, I'll tell you what you could do. You could actually lacquer it or something, and it could be the table for all this other stuff.
I think it deserves to be on the wall, David, to be brutally honest.
Well, you don't have to do anything.
No,
with
no,
it.
no.
You can burn it if you want. A gift is a gift.
You're dumbing it down, but that's got so many connotations of you and your mind. Like we've talked constantly through.
It's a bit worrying, isn't it?
Yes, but we've constantly talked about mindset and how you work and everything that goes on in your mind and how it's led to you doing what you do. And that
I am wondering what will happen to me in my life after having doing this podcast.
Can only be good.
Wait, honestly, David, can you do me a favour and just hold it straight up to this camera over here for me?
That one.
Yes, please.
Look at that.
Perfect.
You see it, Tobe?
Yeah, that's much better. That's incredible, that.
you
That's
think-
so cool.
How long did it take you, David, that?
Oh, it doesn't take me long.
You've signed it as well, look there.
Yeah.
You see it,
Oh,
David?
I've got a right to you on the back.
Yeah, got to
David,
sign that.
Sorry, can I ask, did you just kind of come out with it, or was this an idea that you've had? Or
What I did is
Yeah.
I've taught people creativity in the past,
yeah.
because creativity is the difference between us and animals, other animals. So it's really important. That's how we do everything, really. So I've taught it, and how I taught it was by encapsulating creativity into painting, because it's something that anyone can do. So it's a process, and it's quite a quick process, and I can teach anyone to paint really weird stuff, whether they like it or not, it doesn't matter. But
I love it.
really, really quickly, and that actually gets them on the road of being creative, because that's what that is, a creative process. So I don't know what I'm going to paint when I paint.
Right.
And it's a very simple process, which I'm not going to bore you with, but you go through this process, something comes out of it, and there it is. And that probably took me about 2 hours.
Wow, you just roll with it as it's happening.
Yeah.
This next,
Yeah.
this.
No judging, no censoring, no nothing. You might get laughed at afterwards if you choose to show anyone. I was like, who knows? I mean, for all I know, you think it's really shit and you're being really polite, but it's not. That's not my concern. So I've done it, and there it is.
I don't think it's shit.
No.
I'm not being polite. It's absolutely
It's blown
awesome
my
gift.
mind.
It
It's
means
one of them,
so much. Yeah.
It's just, that's what I wanted to know, because it's so, like you said, creative. I was like, where did that come from?
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
I
yeah.
want to know. That's like,
That's very tame compared to some of the pictures.
I'd love
Yeah.
to
You've
see
seen some of my
I'd love to-
paintings, haven't
Can I
you?
You'd
tell
have to show me. I'd
Can I
love to
tell
see
you
some
one,
more.
Toby? Just to put things in. I don't know if David wants me to say this
Probably
or
not.
but we can cut it out anyway if we're not. But David we got talking about painting last week at his house, and he went, "I'll show you a few," and he took me upstairs.
To see my etchings.
Yeah, and he showed me one, and it was it's a squiggly character in a blur of surroundings, and it's very obvious what it is, and you look at it and you think that's deep, that means something in it. And David made a point of saying to me, that's how I felt when I was enclosed and captured in what I was, with all this stuff that we started talking about at the start of the podcast, and it was an expression of how you felt, you said, and it did it amazingly well.
Well, I'm really surprised that was the one you came up with, because I thought you were going to come up with the etchings on my bedroom wall when we went up there.
Ah, yeah. He showed me in his bedroom as well. This is getting weird now. Catherine wasn't there as well.
But we were quick though.
He's got but he's got koi calf on his bedroom wall, painted on his bedroom wall as well.
I didn't paint them because they're actually realistic. It does look like I'm sleeping amongst the koi calf.
Yeah, sleeping with the fish.
That's so cool.
It's really cool. Now,
I'd love to see that.
on a serious note, thank you very much. It means a lot. When you come back for number 2 podcast, that'll be on the wall, no. 100%. David Preston, thank you very much. If everyone at home's enjoyed that as much as we have, it's an absolute belter. Really,
thank you very much.
Really appreciate it.
Matt Godfrey.
The Fishing Gurus podcast.